Hey, we are on with John Epple today.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, John. How's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. Went a little early today. You know, what the heck? Spring. It's finally spring. No winter.
Feels good. And I know I have those harsh Florida winters I have to deal with, but still, it's nice to be warm.
Yeah. My psychic powers are kicking in. Carrie, who is out in the chat, is going to compliment you on your beard. She likes a good beard. Welcome
My
to the
one of my daughters had a birthday this weekend. One called me a Yeti, and the other said I'm a wizard. So I don't know which one it is now.
Yeti Wizard. That's
uh,
even better.
here
Apparently,
is
that's
Shadowhawk,
the
my
thing now.
partner in
I don't
crime and
know.
co-host.
They won't
We're
How
do
do you do,
push-ups
sir?
to save their life, but they'll make fun of me over the phone.
yeah. Now, John, you and I have met over on the Hump Day show over
Yep.
on Homer Glitches.
Yeah,
We
nice to meet you, John. I don't
You
believe
too.
I've met you yet.
I think I think Shadow has been in some of the chats that I've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
with.
I've been in a few. The problem with the Hump Day show is that it starts right when I got to go to bed for work the next day, so I don't get to
Oh
stay very long.
man. Carrie's cool in my book.
Oh yeah, Carrie's good people. Oi, oi, Carrie.
uh yeah, I'm just glad it's spring and that winter's over with, hopefully. The
Yeah.
most of it.
Man, it's cold here today. I mean, not super cold, but the wind was just so, just right through you, man. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. The winter's the wind's been kind of brutal here in the last week, but
yeah, it had some teeth
it's
on it
been
for sure,
nice the
boy.
last couple of days, sunshiny, just spring, everything going green and warmer. Where are you located at, John?
I'm in the Orlando area.
Okay.
Ah,
All
so
right.
it's
If I
nice and
want
green
cold
there.
weather now, we'll just look at it on TV.
Are you a native Floridian or are
No,
you no
I'm from North Carolina. There we
North
go.
Carolina? Okay.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
okay.
I know the football team sucks, but it just happens to be the shirt I'm wearing today.
Now
I
I
haven't
see
watched football
you're
in years, so
feel free to work on your work while we talk.
Mhm. Yeah,
I, I,
I'm working on Exodus Z page today. So right now I've got Exodus Z and Flesh Eaters, and just today is the Exodus Z day.
oh wow,
It's only about half
yeah,
done, so I'll have it done tonight.
so you kind of alternate or what? Just kind of what you feel like working on at the time, or
Well, no,
what is kind of your work
nor,
ethic?
they're both paying commissions, so I'm trying to do bounce back and forth to keep both people happy. This is
Hmm.
the first time I've had two different books I've been working on at the same time, so
Yeah.
I just figured juggling would be the best way to do it.
How's that working
right.
out for you?
It's pretty good, Mom. This is page 18, and I think I'm about page 20 on Flesh Eaters because it's completely drawn. I'm spotting the blacks right now, filling in all the large areas. As I get a few pages at a time done, I'll send them to the writer who paid me, and everybody seems to be happy so far because they're seeing regular progress.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the way to do it.
yeah. Do you think you'd ever do that again? Two at one pop?
If they'll pay me.
Yeah. Now, do tell us about both books and what they're about.
Oh, Exodus Z is my buddy George Alvarez wrote the book. He initially came up with the idea, and then I added my 2 cents enough that I became a co-creator. And the basic premise of it is we found a way to bring zombies to heaven, because most of the zombie movies you see, it's some variation of zombie and everything's down on Earth.
Yeah.
Granted, that's fun, and you have your inappropriate humor, you have your gore, horror, and all that fun stuff. But it's just he had never come at the time. He had never seen anything about zombies in heaven, so he's like, "Hey, why don't I play with that idea?" And so I took it a step further and hid stuff all throughout the book, Easter eggs and whatnot. And then he lets me get as gory as I want. So I do.
What do you
Oh,
think the
oh.
age appropriation for that book's going to be? Like 17 and above, or adult, or what?
I would say at least a teenager, because you have to
Mhm.
be, I guess, emotionally mature enough to be able to handle seeing dismemberment and gore, and a lot of the humor you would find in one of the good Lobo comics.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the kind of potty humor that I put into X to Z. Now,
Oh, okay.
Flesh Eaters is a different story. I come in on book 2 of that, and it's so far it deals with religion a little bit. Have you ever seen that old I want to say John Carpenter movie, Vampires? I think it was,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
the church hired a team of people to take out the vampires.
Yep, I remember that one. It was a pretty good movie, actually.
Yeah, I thought so too. The Flesh Eaters is similar to that, and the fact that the main character in here is kind of in the same position that I can't remember the actor's name.
Oh God, that was a.
He was in
He's
Hercules as well. He played Hades.
yeah, he's a big conservative guy too. He's funny. James Woods.
That guy. The character is kind of like James Woods in the fact that he is called by a religious organization to take out zombies. And like I said, I finished drawing it. He was already introduced in the first book that came along before I even knew about it, and then uh, they've let me the same way. They let me get as gory as I want to. Um, I think I have pages of it. I don't think the
Well,
writers are going to mind too much if I advertise the book a little bit.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
like my little moniker is Momentum Comics. Who are these published through, or going to
Well,
be?
these
Do
are
they?
a couple of individuals. I don't think they're a. I don't know if they're like a definitive company.
Uh-huh.
I think they kind of self-released the Flesh Eaters on Amazon because the preview that they sent me was through an Amazon link. I think they've been talking to people to try to get a book deal with this.
Yeah,
Here,
through Sun Publishing. And
yeah, but
which project is this now?
this is the Flesh Eaters I was telling you about.
Okay, all right.
yeah, it looks nice, dude.
I mean,
Um,
I have to finish rendering, but this is what like 3/4 of the book looks like now.
Carrie wants to know if you have anything on as far as a crowdfunding live campaign going on right now.
If you're on Kickstarter, you can find Exodus Z. Because we funded it in 4 separate campaigns on Exodus Z. We did issue 1 was on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and then we had a book called Phantasmagoria that had an Exodus Z filler story in it because it's an anthology book. And then issue 2 was the latest one. It's over, but I think the Exodus Z is still, you can still back it. Apparently, I guess the campaign is closed, but you can still go on there and say, "Hey, I want a copy now too," because I don't know all the proper terminology for it, but I'm pretty sure Exodus Z is still on Kickstarter. So
And
that
how do you spell that Exodus Z?
EXODUS and then Z.
Okay. Hey, PBR, Street Game.
Hail PBR. And I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be asking, Carrie.
I'm not either. I'm looking through her comments.
I
And I'm
think
like,
she's probably
what
expecting me to hit John up for a Salamandroid commission, but as
Hey, I
he's
was not
in the
wondering if you
middle,
pay me. I got
as
a
he's in
cyber
the
frog
middle of
that I did
2
over here
projects right
on.
now.
I want to say it was one with Don Edwards a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it was on the studio where that week they wanted to pick green characters, and I got the broad idea. Hey, let me draw Cyberfrog, just because I had never drawn him before.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, I
And
mean,
here's another
Shadow Hawk
random
has just
page.
met him and not even looked at his artwork, Carrie.
This one's another random page from Flesh Eaters as well.
Yeah, no, looks good. Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of artists like Kyle Holtz and Kelly Jones, Bernie Wrightson, people like that have
you're right in my wheelhouse, brother.
strong shading in their artwork, and then they still have rendering.
And how big are these projects you're working on? How page count wise?
Both of these are like 24 pages.
Mm.
With the I want to say with the Exodus Z, if you did go on there to the campaign on Exodus Z on Kickstarter, you can get book 1 as well. That way you can get caught up with the storyline. I also have a few copies myself for people that want it, so we can figure something out.
How much draw time are you getting in every day, John?
As long as everybody's away at work and at school, then I'm sitting here getting stuff done.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, about 8 hours, 9 hours a day, or what?
Sometimes more. Depends on what's going on. These last few pages of Exodus Z, George wanted us to. We're showing the fight scenes of between the angels and the demons, and you know how any zombie movie goes. You need lots of detail just about everywhere, whether it's gore, destruction, or whatever. So
right.
George is making me earn that paycheck.
Are you self-taught, John, or you got some graphic in your design in your background, or what?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I took every art class that was offered to me, but for the most part, I'm self-taught because I joined the military not too long after I got out of high school, so there really wasn't a whole lot of time to try to earn a degree because then they didn't even GI Bill didn't pay for art school or anything.
No, really?
There's a filing cabinet behind me. It's over here that one entire shelf inside that filing cabinet is just different art books.
Well, I mean, besides like Joe Kubert's school, and there really isn't that many courses on sequential comic book artwork.
Well, I initially joined the military in '99, and part of it was so that I could get a GI Bill to try to go to college because where I was living at in North Carolina, unless you wanted to work at Walmart the rest of your life, there weren't a whole heck of a lot of options.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service, by the way. And what branch of the service were you in, by the way?
My first 4 years, I was a Marine, and then the rest of my career, I was a paratrooper. Wow. I got out for a little while, came back in as a paratrooper.
Yeah. Okay. So are you officially retired now, John? Or?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And how long have you been there in Florida?
Since 2006.
Wow. Okay. So you're settled in. You're just
pretty
coming
much.
up on 20 years.
Yeah, close,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You like it better than North Carolina?
I mean, I've been wanting to go back because it has been so long. But my wife's from the area that we live in, so we're not going anywhere.
North Carolina's got some good barbecue, huh?
Oh, I know. That's my favorite kind.
Yeah, there you go.
So I don't even go. I've only been to a couple of barbecue restaurants out here because someone else was paying. But other than that, I don't even really eat barbecue down here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have much. They prepare it up there in North Carolina?
It tends to be more vinegary. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Yeah,
exactly how they do it. If you spit in it or what, but just the vinegary pork sandwich just sounds good to me.
Yeah, they get away from the barbecue sauces and it's more of a vinegary sauce, huh? And just the meat and bun. Yeah.
Well, I'll have some barbecue sauce, but for me, when you're eating like a steak or anything like that, if you have, hey man, Genuine Comics is cool.
Yeah, Dave's awesome. Hail, Dave.
Mike Walters in the house. Hey, Mike.
Howdy, Mike.
But yeah, with me, if you have to like drown the food in like steak sauce or something,
Right.
it was done wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
The
like for
meat.
me, an ideal steak is when you don't have to put steak sauce on at all,
Yeah.
Yeah,
unless you want
that's
to.
how I try to cook mine.
Yeah. We had a barbecue place. It was in business about 30 years, and it was about 45 minutes. It's not close to me. It's about 45 minutes away to an hour. But they knew how to do it right. Like you said, they had like a mustardy, vinegary, uh, slaw that they put on it, and they put it
Mhm.
on the bottom of the bun, which I appreciated, and put the meat on top of that. That was unusual, but it worked a lot better with slippage of things off of there because it can get messy, like eating a spaghetti dinner. But
I can't get any good hush puppies down here either.
yeah, hush puppies are great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Man, I know all it is basically like flour
just a
with
dough
some
ball,
seasoning
right? I
rolled
mean,
into a
yeah,
ball, but still,
yeah,
I can't find any good ones down here.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Now I've
yeah.
seen
I'm not.
elongated ones that look like a little pine
Oh,
cone.
Oh yeah,
Instead
yeah.
of
I've seen.
like a round one. I've
I
had
don't know if
those
they
too.
oh,
call them something else or not, but yeah, I've seen those.
Mhm.
yeah, it's funny. A few years ago, on one of my deployments, we did the deprocessing after deployment. We did it at Fort Bragg. So as soon as I found out I was there, I started messaging my friends. Hey man, are you going to be free this week? Hey man, are you going to be free this week? And I ended up hooking up with a couple of my old buddies that I've known since high school. So I got a chance to hang out with a couple of them while I was there, and I made sure that at least one of them took me to Bojangles while I was there.
Oh, there you go. And Carrie, funnily enough, is asking if we get Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce over here.
Oh yes,
Yes,
we do.
Carrie, we do.
I've had it.
Jack Daniel's is actually a company from Tennessee here in America.
Hmm.
Carrie.
I think I've had sriracha sauce. I know I have.
Sriracha, yeah, it's a little too garlicky for me. I like it, but I mean, it's a heavy garlic.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not
a
big
big
into
fan
the
of
garlic, but
Hispanic
I know
food
it's
in
good for you.
general. But
Hmm.
even with that, if I don't really I put hot sauce on like sparingly. I would rather taste what I'm eating, because if I guess the flavor of the hot sauce or the sriracha or whatever I put on there overpowers what I'm eating,
Yeah,
it's no fun for me.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like one time my stepson, we went to I want to say Tijuana Flats. You know how they have the hot sauce bar.
Okay.
He called me out, and I was like, all right, fine, go get three hot sauces, and I tried whatever one he gave me, and then it was my turn. I went and got some for him. I got the absolute hottest ones that they had, and
Mm.
uh, I dipped my finger in there, and then I tried some of it, and I just sat there. I was like, all right, what? He did it, and looking at his face, he didn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, it's
Yeah.
hilarious.
My
I
ex-father-in-law.
can't do the hot stuff. I got to be honest with you, John.
No, I
My
like hot
ex-
stuff, but it's just I can't,
Yeah,
if it overpowers the flavor of what I'm eating, then I don't like
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
It's got to enhance it, not overpower it.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny with
John,
my girls when I look. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask him, if he was primarily a Marvel DC guy. When did you start reading comics? How'd you get into comics?
I want to say like the mid to late '80s. My dad bought me my first comic book was a Fantastic Four. I want to say 307,
Uh-huh.
and that's all it took to get me stuck on comic books.
There you
Okay.
go.
But with me,
So that was a game changer for you.
oh yeah, and then oh yeah, all it took was one comic book, and I'm like, I love these things, and I started buying after that whenever I could get like allowance, or I got money for my grades and stuff like that, or I would go earn money for
Yeah.
doing yard work or whatever. It usually went to comic
Hmm.
books of some sort,
Yeah.
and then
I go out and shovel driveways in the
yeah,
wintertime, mow lawns in the summer. You know.
I'd say about junior high age. That's when the X-Men were really kicking off in the early '90s,
Yeah.
and my first one was I want to say Andy Kuber one, because I think Colossus was on the cover and he was choking out I want to say Xavier. That was my first X-Men comic, but I think he and like Jim Lee, because that was the time that that one. That was the time that X-Men were really kicking off. Was in the early '90s. That's all it took for me. Is like this is what I want to do.
Gotcha.
So I think Ron Friends was doing the artwork on Fantastic Four at this time.
I
Yeah.
believe that was Bushima on the inside.
Oh, okay. And
John
Hail Homer
Buscema.
Glitch in the chat.
It was probably John, not Sal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we guess.
it was John.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit older than you, than John. I got into the X-Men back in, oh God, what was it? Right around 231, 232, the whole Hellfire saga, the beginning of the Dark Phoenix, John Byrne and Chris Claremont.
Well, I've got older ones, but
Yeah,
it's just
I'm just saying when I
that's
got
what
into them,
got me.
you know. So I'm guessing I'm probably about 10 years older than you. So
Do you just do comic art, John, or all kinds, like painting or whatever?
Mainly now, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I had learned how to airbrush, and I was running an airbrush booth for a while. But for me, comic books was always it. I wanted to draw cartoons and stuff when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
reading like the Sunday comics and all that, and then growing up watching the good Disney movies. But now it's comic books. It's just like I keep coming back to it. So after a while, I was like, why fight it? Just focus on this because it's completely different skill set.
I guess I was dense. I mean, when I got my first Avengers, that 147 back in '76, that really captured my imagination because it was George Perez artwork. And then I went back a couple weeks later, and out of all the other comics, I got another Avengers. Of course, a lot of characters, more bang for my quarter. More bang for your buck. More characters, the better. And I just happened to be the next issue and started collecting from then. I didn't know that comics to me were kind of one and done in my mind, even though it said at the end next issue. It never really clicked with me till I saw two back to back, And then I knew.
Wait a minute.
When I bought that first one,
these are great.
My dad bought that first one for me. It was, we were living in North Carolina, and they took me to like an old bookstore, like old used books, and they had a section that had comic books. But at the time, you could go to like 7-Eleven or like your local gas station, and they would have like a spinner rack of them, or they'd have them with a section with the magazines and stuff where you could buy comic books. And then, or at the time, you could still go to like grocery stores.
Yep.
And so my mom would go grocery shopping. They always knew where to find me. Like I'd wander off or something, or they'd lose track of me. And 9 times out of 10, they'd find me where the damn comic books were.
I used to have a route.
Tell me that X-Men number again. What was your first X-Men?
Oh, I got to look it up.
Okay.
I forgot what you said. Was it 307? No,
that was
Fantastic Four. Never mind.
Do your kids draw, John,
John,
at all? Have they gotten the drawing bug?
Out just normal kid stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky. My one daughter is an excellent artist. She actually graduated with her what do you call it? It's not a master's, but whatever the one is below that.
BA?
2 years ago. Yeah, and then my youngest daughter now, who's still in school, is in the orchestra, and they won the state championships this year. So,
thank you, Feline. Appreciate that. She's making dinner. She says, "Have a good stream, a great stream."
Thanks, Feline.
There's a difference, yeah.
The awesome and mighty flying.
Are you looking at a Marvel Essential book? Do you have some Marvel Essentials or something down there?
Oh, I've got a whole bunch. Oh, here it is. $2.79.
$2.79. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Andy was the one that drew it.
Yeah.
was that it didn't. I didn't realize it for a long time, but for me, I've always followed artists instead of particular titles. Is that way I
Mhm.
expose myself to a wider variety of comic books.
Yeah.
Right. And I say that the art will grab you, but the story will keep you.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't care what they say
Yeah.
online. Comic books are a visual medium.
Oh, hail Peter in the chat.
This is
Ecopad.
this is eye catching to me because Colossus is usually silver, and here he's
Yeah,
depicted as gold. I don't know if that's supposed to be the lighting or what,
Yeah, I
but
think
I
it's
think it
just
definitely
supposed
was
to
colored.
because I
be.
think there was fire involved or something. I can't remember
Yeah, I
what it
think it's
was right now.
reflected light from
Mhm.
the.
But that's my
Yeah.
first X-Men that I remember getting. Uh, but yeah, I blame
Hey,
Jim
Peter.
Lee's. What's up, Peter? But yeah, Omer was up there too. I saw him a little while ago.
Yeah, Homer's in here.
Mhm.
But yeah, let me see. What is it? I was happy to be there for the beginning of Image Comics too. That they were. I would practically make my parents take me to the comic book store so that I could go get Image Comics.
There you
Yeah,
go.
when you can look back at some of those early Image stories, they're crap.
Yeah, but since I mainly buy comic books for the artwork, though, I didn't
Hmm.
let that stop me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
A
I
lot
get
of
it.
the
I bought the
writing,
stuff too. I don't know
a
if I
lot of the
read it at
writing
the
was
time.
terrible, but some of the artwork was just incredible.
I was at the time I was a big fan of Rob Liefeld, so a lot of the extreme books I would get whenever I could, and then Cyberforce was my big thing.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
I mean, I
Sylvester. Yeah.
saw a lot of the Wildstorm stuff. I got some of it here and there, but it always seemed like the shops I went to, those two people's work were more prevalent for me to find.
And how did your parents? I know reading comics kind of made me a reader. I needed that visual stimulus. What did your parents think about take me to the comic shop, or take me to the pharmacy or whatever, so that I could get
Well,
comics?
after a while, they knew that if I got any money, whether it was like birthday money or my grades or whatever, that I was going to spend it on comic books. So
Hmm.
I guess they looked at it more as a constructive thing to do with my time because I was
Yeah.
reading and I wasn't out getting in trouble too
Right.
There
much.
you
So I think they looked at it more as a good thing. They know now, now, I'm still reading comic books.
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
And I imagine you have memories of some of those early comic books. That's what I'm trying to capture in mind is just the awe and wonder that I first with certain books, felt,
Yeah.
Yeah,
when I
Well,
write my comics, I want to instill that for someone else.
the first
yeah.
thing
That
that
feeling
comes
you're
to
talking
mind.
about is a lot of what I'm. 'Cause I have a '90s book that I'm working on for myself, not for
Mhm.
myself, but on my own. And a lot of what I loved about those '90s comics, no matter what company made them, I'm trying to put that into this other book that I'm doing on my own. I just doing stuff like this to help get that book made because that book's drawn at this point. I'm looking at an editor to help me make sure I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and make sure things look as dynamic as possible. Because I mean, I know I'm not going to be William Shakespeare or Chaucer or anything like that, but I don't want it to be just a hey, okay, hey, it's a pretty looking comic, but the story
You know
sucks.
what I say to that? The history books haven't been written yet.
Yeah,
On your life, so who knows? A
Exactly.
lot of those creatives undersold themselves in their own time and they became well known. So, who knows? It's really not up to the artist, I don't think, to a certain point. Uh, people are going to decide, who goes to the top, cream of the crop, whatever.
mm-hmm.
Uh, Shadowhawk, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna say it. John reminds me of when he was talking about that there were still spinner racks and stuff.
Hmm.
When I was a kid, and I was old enough to be out on my own, riding my bike and stuff. Every Wednesday, I had a route of like 5 different little convenience stores, mom and pops, the local pharmacy, and then one of the grocery stores that had a magazine rack. And I would ride 4 or 5 miles a day on my bike, just going to find new comics, man.
Oh
You
yeah.
know?
I do. So you still got a comic book collection from when you were a child,
Oh
right?
yeah. I've got, I think, 8 long boxes that are so full you can't squeeze anything else in there. And then I have a 9th that's probably about half full. I have a bookshelf to my right over here of all my graphic novels, whether it's independent, Marvel, DC, or whatever. And then
Nice.
I have a little shelf that my tablet's on that has all my crowdfunded books and stuff in it.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
going to guesstimate you've got about 12,000 or more, probably more comics.
I haven't even counted, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, on average, about 300, and if you, now I don't know if they're boarded and bagged, but if,
Yeah, the ones in my white boxes are.
so you guess that, you fit in about 270 books on average. So let's say 300, then you got about 12,000 something, I'm guessing.
Sounds about right. And I have gone through a couple of purges too, getting rid of stuff that I didn't want anymore, just so I can make room for what I want to get, because we'd have a small house or something like that. I don't want my bad habit taking over the rest of the house. So I try to keep my comic book stuff in my studio so that at the very least, no one else has to deal with it.
Yeah. I'm in a small house, but luckily my wife is very cool, and so she has allowed me to basically take over the living room, display all my art and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, I've got some of my art here and there that I had done for birthday presents or stuff like that.
Oh, and
But
not art that I've done, but art I purchased in auctions and things like that. I'm a huge supporter, man. I don't know if you're aware of me or not, but yeah, I've backed somewhere in the neighborhood of 650 campaigns so far between Indiegogo.
I'm nowhere near that. I think
Fund my
between
comic,
Kickstarter, let me think, Kickstarter, Indiegogo. I think there's one thing on Zoop that I had backed, and then Fund My Comic. I still think I'm probably around 50 or so.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, I dove in the middle of 2018. I was off work with an injury, recovering from surgery, and discovered, CG Ethan again. I was a big Cyberfrog fan from back in the 90s.
Yep.
And I just plunged right in, dude. I started backing everybody, dove into the community. I'm working on my own project right now. Dream come true. Never thought that was going to happen in my lifetime. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I had been hesitant because I had done a lot of research, because naturally I had been hearing about Comicsgate and, oh, hey, what's that? And then
we're a head group. Don't forget
the people, the local artists that I know that go to the local shows or the comic store openings in the area and stuff like that. And this person talk about this person, or I don't care about the drama, but it took me a long time to finally say, screw it. This is the group of people that I want to be with. No one from Comicsgate that I've dealt with. So granted, there's bad people in every group, but my experience so far, they tend to be some of the nicest, most helpful, and sometimes downright friendly people that I've dealt with in the industry.
Oh yeah, same here, dude. I wouldn't even be considering doing my own project at this point, but so I've gotten to know so many people just by streaming with Rex, doing talking, being in all the chats, that I've had so many people just encourage me to go ahead and do it. It's like, all right, this has been a dream of mine since I was a kid. I turned 58 last week, John.
Okay.
So.
Hey, Tank. Yeah, I've got a on the wall over here. I've got a piece by Donald DeLay for another book that I want to do. Let me see.
Oh yeah, I like Donald's stuff, man. He's got a really
I've got
cool
some
style.
Donald. delay work. And then
very
I
nice.
talk to him regularly. And then I've got for that 90s book I told you guys that I did or that I'm working on. Joe Sontag did one of my alternate covers for that
Oh,
as
excellent.
well. I don't have it
Yeah.
on display, but I'd call him a friend. The conversations we've had, he and I have been talking for about 3 years, I guess.
Right.
Even on my last deployment, he and I were talking. That's when I really kicked it into high gear to get my book made. He always answers any questions. Both of them always answer any questions I have.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming you know Sean then too, right?
Not as well, but he and I have been talking a bit
Yeah,
lately.
they're both
And all
really
these
good guys,
too,
man.
that Tink just mentioned.
Yeah, they'll think. Yeah, I'm
But,
a huge
Yeah.
supporter of those guys as well.
So for a long time, I was like, I'm trying to get in where I fit in, and thanks to people like Joe and Donal and all the guys that Tink just mentioned, I'm finding my clique because I don't necessarily want to be associated with people that just thrive off of drama.
Right, right. No,
I understand that gets clicks or whatever, but I'm here for comics. I mean, I won't back down if shit happens.
yeah, if somebody
But at the
wants
same
to
time, I'm
play
here for
silly
comics.
games, that's fine. But I
The
would much
way
rather have a
I
nice talk.
started getting on YouTube was watching Ethan's draw streams, years ago. And that's because you just don't see, wow, you can see a former or a professional, showing you how to do it. It's like, wow, I think people really respond to the draw streams. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is proof of it, John. You and I have been doing the Omer Glitch and others show, the Hump Day show that's on Wednesdays. And look at these views, 167 for our last one, 91, 149. Just the Hump Day shows, 223. People really, here's one, 306 views.
Last I checked, the
Wow, that's
studio show from last week, where I got the guys that make Arachnus to come on the show, that was over 200 views.
That was on Dawn's, I think, wasn't it?
nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to say 216 last time I saw it.
Yeah.
That's the highest of any stream I've ever been a part of. So, and I took pride in the fact when I typed my name in on YouTube just for the heck of it, I'm now searchable on YouTube, and I had a little.
There you go.
I had a little laugh that I could find my own name on there.
Yeah, it's fun and it's interesting.
Do you work digitally at all? Tanks, he had to kind of stop or charge it up for a little bit, and then his pen was, and it's like, yeah, we've got to find an extra $16 to buy you another one so you can alternate those things and keep going. But now
I've got an iPad that I bought to learn that stuff, but with all my deployments that I've had, if my tablet goes down, I can't draw. So for me, I'm mostly just traditional. I mean, I have a scanner to do stuff that we can fix minor things, stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm analog. Just
which is great if you do a campaign or whatever. You have even if you don't, you've got the original artwork you can always sell. That's the big advantage I see. I know some people like do the artwork and then print it out and then ink it, and that'll give you something physical. Now, I know you pencil. Do you ink, John?
Yeah.
I think that's where it really comes to life, where you add the energy to the thing, or you kill it cold stone dead, as they say. Stone cold dead. Here I am inverting my words again, Shadowhawk.
Cold stone dead sounds good. That's that ice cream place.
Here it is. Is that cover I was telling you about that Joe Sontag had done? No one else has seen this outside of the two of us.
Oh. Keep it in a safe place till you get it published.
Oh, I did.
Very cool. Now tell us about this character.
Wow.
Well, it's a team of people.
Okay.
It's kind of like a 90s image version of Suicide Squad.
Okay. with a little, maybe that cyber force you were talking about in there.
I'll try to get it back in there. But yeah, what I
Just
did with
fold it
that
in
book,
half. Come on, John.
I'm not, but I'll figure it out later.
He's already got a picture to put back up on the wall.
But yeah, I got Chris Graves that does the Rise in Pain. He's done an alternate cover for me as well.
Oh wow, that's great.
I only have a digital copy of that. He only works digitally, so that's all I got of that.
Mm-hmm.
But after talking to guys like them, that's what kind of leaned me more towards, I guess, the dark side, because they're friendly people. Both guys, whenever I message them about stuff, I mean, they usually reply. They don't blow me off or mess with me or anything like that. So I don't have a problem with Comic Escape myself. But I look at it as kind of almost like a religion. If I know that you don't like that, I'm not going to force it on you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see what's wrong with it myself, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to try to force you to do it if I know that that's not your thing. But what I did for the book was every 90s book or every 90s team book, you have like the big guy like Juggernaut. You have the gun toting guy, kind of like Punisher or somebody like that. You have the bladed character, the moody like bladed character like Wolverine or Warblade or something like that.
Or Witchblade.
And then you have the hot chick in the tactical lingerie doing whatever, and then you have like a teleporter of some sort. So that's the basics what I use to build my team around. This is some of my concept work that I keep on my wall. So that way when I'm working on the pages, I can just easily look at this and be, okay, yeah, that's what the guy's claws look like, or that's what his helmet looks like, stuff like that.
Dude, this is nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got to have some good reference
got a little
shots,
bit
right?
of that little Ripclaw / Warblade feel in there on the what's that guy's name?
What I did for the characters, I looked at the 90s comics and trying to figure out like what the parameters I wanted to build off of. I mixed it with my own characters, and with every one, I mixed in like 2 or 3 different influences from different places so that I had something at least unique. I mean, I don't know that there's too many original ideas anymore, so I was looking for something unique.
Gotcha. Yeah.
For the most part, I think this book is fueled off nostalgia, so I try to work with that without committing what is it? Without ripping anybody else off. I don't want to commit any plagiarism or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
no, I like the look, the feel. It's and it's so crazy because I think Shane Davis and one of the other guys, John, might have been talking about it the other night. Like, for whatever reason, the generation that came right after the Image boom in the 90s, all the artists that came into Marvel and everything, like shit all over the 90s. They hate everything that happened. That was the biggest selling time in the history of comic books. Yeah. Comic books have ever been made.
Well, even one of the guys I talk to on a regular basis, he's the same way. I try to show him something, and I'm not even sure quite how we're friends, other than the fact he and I had worked on an anthology together at one point.
Right.
But his tastes are completely different than mine. I try to show him something cool from like a 90s style book, and like he hates that stuff. He doesn't want anything to do with anything 90s. Creatively, really? I think there's some of the best comics out there.
I mean, at least art-wise, maybe the writing wasn't, super superior in the early 90s, the beginning of Image. But, I mean, the artwork, the wave of style and the innovation in coloring, everything that came in, was amazing.
I've only looked at comic books as a form of entertainment. I'm not looking for high literature or like I said earlier, Chaucer or Shakespeare or something like that. It's entertained me for a little while, and I'll be happy.
I
It's like,
think you brought up a good point though, John. You know, you create these characters, and until you really get familiar and draw them enough, you do have to kind of use some of your past drawings as reference,
yeah.
you know, to stay
Well,
on model.
well,
And
I've gotten binders of all my most of the characters I created as a kid. At one point, I think I had like 500 characters that I had created. I'm not gonna say they were all the best possible.
some were more derivative than others.
Yes, and those are the ones that are probably going to stay in the binders or be like random cannon fodder characters in the background or something. I don't know, but I kept them because I would go through them and which ones I thought would be the best ideas, and I built off of that. Tried to update their designs, and then I looked at what I liked about the '90s comics. Is like, what can I bring from that to this and make it better?
How
Because
do you create a new character? Take us through how you would create a character.
I'll get an idea somewhere, and then I'd be like something I'm watching or some music I'm listening to, or I'll get a character's name in my head, or I'll get an idea from somewhere, and I just build off of it from there. It's like, what would it take? It's like with that book that I'm making. It's called Suicide Run. I was a big fan of Suicide Squad as a kid. It was probably the only title that I followed for the most part. And at this point, I have just about the entire run. I'm only missing a few issues of the entire series of the book.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, what would like a 90s image version of Suicide Squad be? And I even like the movies. I mean, they weren't the best, and they weren't even necessarily comic accurate that I always complain about online, but I found them entertaining. So I built off of that. It's like, what a 90s image Suicide Squad look like? And then I was like, oh yeah, I remember I have a character that I think could fit here. I would adapt it, maybe change little things about it, try to keep the core of what I liked about the character the most. Try to keep that and just adapt it to this new situation. Like, how would character X act in this kind of a situation? And then I just built it off, and then now I've got a whole team. It was like the the Amanda Waller character in mine.
Yeah,
mine looks like Danny Trejo.
Oh, there you go.
Just because
Cool.
I thought he's a cool actor, and if I ever made a movie of it, he's who I was thinking of whenever I would draw that character.
There you go.
so if we were to look
Danny's
into
got
your
a definite
collection,
look,
John,
man.
what would we see? What would we find the most of?
Awesomeness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was.
Well, I don't know. I tried to.
Image Comics did kind of have a line called "Awesome" there for a while, right?
Yeah. Well, not just that. They used Awesome, and then Extreme Studios, Maximum Press.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be able to see my influences, and you could be like, oh, okay, you can tell from these panels that this is laid out in a way where you can tell he likes Stephen Platt's work a lot, or this is something where you can tell, oh, he's a Liefeld fan, or Mark Silvestri fan.
Little Brett Booth.
A little bit. I didn't read a lot of Wildstorm as a kid, but I'm definitely more of a fan of their work now. It's like now, whenever I go to a comic book store, I'm almost exclusively back issues and indie books now. I don't even buy mainstream books anymore.
Oh, dude,
and pretty much you can get those back.
Which studio, but Michael Turner. I mean, good Lord.
Oh, yeah, I still kick myself in the butt because I had a chance to meet him after I got out of the Marines. I'd gone to Heroes Con in Charlotte.
Oh no!
And he was there, but there was a line, and I still kind of kicked myself in the butt for not taking the time to at least shake his hand. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, no one expected,
Yeah.
Him to die so early in his 30s.
Dude, yeah, I mean, that's just like crazy young for, especially so talented,
How about your top 5 comic artists.
For me, it's usually guys like Bart Sears, David Finch, Kyle Holtz that I mentioned earlier. 2, 3. Kelly Jones. I like a lot of his work. And then
John, say it, John.
I'm trying to think.
He's wanting you to say Bernie Wrightson.
Oh, of course. That's not even a question there.
Yeah,
I
it's like
actually had a chance
it's
to meet
like
Bernie.
asking somebody, "Do you like Frank Frazetta?"
Yeah, that's
You know.
it's a given.
Well, of
Yeah.
course.
I met Bernie at a Tampa Bay Comic Con shortly before he died. I didn't
Oh,
know he
wow.
was going to be at the con. I just turned around and I
Hey,
saw a table with his name on it, and I was so flabbergasted. I could barely form a cohesive sentence. I mean, I've got a print of Batman and Swamp Thing on my wall, but yeah, I could barely mutter anything cohesive. It was like, I don't even remember what I said to him.
Tell us some other professionals that you've met at conventions and places.
Kyle Holtz, that I mentioned. I think I met him at the same con. He left a good impression on me.
Who was that now?
Kyle Holtz.
Okay.
He draws.
I see a lot of his work online, John, but where is he from? Is he a mainstream guy or Image?
Off with Malibu doing Shadow Man.
Oh, okay.
He's had some underground stuff before that, but he's one of those artists where I ended up, once I caught on to him, I have damn near everything he's done now.
Was that
Malibu,
I wasn't
aware
was
of
that
him.
Valiant?
Malibu.
Yeah.
Malibu.
Shadow Man. Yeah, Shadow Man was a Malibu comic.
Yeah, that was back in the day. I might actually have some of that and didn't realize it was him.
Well, I turns out I had some from when I was a kid, and then a few years ago, before I met Kyle, I came back across his work in a dollar bin or something. I'm like, hey, this sounds pretty awesome. And then when it came time to put it away, that's when I saw that I had more of his work from when I was a kid. I'm like, and then that's all it took for me is like, I've got to find more of his stuff. And when I had a chance to talk to him at Tampa Bay Comic Con, that's all it took for me. It's like from then on, it's like whenever I had a chance to find more of his work, it's like I've got to have it.
Yeah, all the
I met
stuff.
Bart Sears too at a store opening when he was promoting the his what was it? Ominous Press books, his comics.
Brute and Babe, and yeah.
Well, yeah, when he I want to say around 2008 or so, whenever that line of books were coming out.
Yeah, something like that.
I met him because I didn't know at the time that he lived in Tampa or in the Tampa area. My wife had taken me to a comic book store, and I was talking to Bart, and he found out that I was an artist. So he asked to look at my work. I didn't even have my portfolio with me, and he asked to look at it. So as soon as we were done talking, I took my wife home, got in my truck, flew back up to the comic shop, and spent like 30 minutes just looking at my portfolio, gave me ideas on how to improve. And I have little sketch cards that he had done, like little rough sketches to show what he was trying to teach me. And
anybody else come to mind?
I met Brian Polito at the same show that I met Kyle Holtz. He's been a cool guy, and I don't.
He seems like he's really cool. I don't have any personal experience, but he seems really cool.
At this point, I go to comic book store or comic book shows as a networking more than anything, because I think of it as, since I have professional comics that I've done now, they're colleagues. Not that I've accomplished nearly the same thing that they have, but I love the fact that I can go to local shows and people start recognizing me.
Yeah, that's cool, isn't it?
What do you like about like Bart Sears? I like some of Bart Sears stuff. I like some of sort of his twin in styles, Andy stuff. Yeah. But I don't like so much the hyper muscularity, but it is big and bold stuff.
Well, that's what I liked about it. Now, I wasn't
Yeah.
crazy necessarily with how Bart drew women. And later on in his career, he got better at it. But to me,
Mm-hmm.
the faces didn't do it for me. But for
Yeah.
the most part, how intense and dynamic his work was is like he's another artist like Kyle Holtz, where I had to have everything I could find of his. It's like for me, since I bought comic books for the art. If it's one that I really
Mm-hmm.
latched onto, I would get to a point where whenever I'd go to a comic book store, I would look for artists that I like just so I could get their older work, so that I could see how their style developed. Like I haven't met Joe Quesada yet, but he's another one of those artists where everything I can come across that he's done, I'm like, damn, I have to have that.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
Yeah, I
stylized,
really
isn't
like.
it?
I
Yeah,
liked all of his stuff
that's
a
what got me
lot
as a kid.
more.
Was I would get excited, like, oh man, Joe Quesada just released a new book, or David Finch doing after he did Cyberforce, everything he did after that, or Stephen Platt. I miss the days where I would get excited to go to a comic book store, so I could see all the cool art. For me, a lot of the mainstream art now, because their house styles and how they do things, to me,
Mhm.
a lot of it looks the same. The technical points are there, or the technical aspects of the art are there, but the styles are what excited me the most.
Well, we'll give John a break here and we'll take a look at the campaign. I know some of you wanting to know what's going on with my campaign on Fund My Comic. Um, Let me bring that up. There we go. 40 we broke $4,100, $4,107, 67 backers. Thank you, everyone. Actually, we've been on a tear with our subs and the campaign, as far as I'm concerned. We've added a lot to the campaign. Tell your friends, share it out. Um, I'll be doing my bit, going on some more shows and promoting. 6 a.m. stickers. We're so close to getting the Bogg sticker. Um, just a little bit. I think that we'll achieve that in the end, and then we can go on to another stretch goal. Whether we make it that high up or not, I don't know, but we'll keep going till the very end. Hope to fulfill in July. A lot of artwork by a lot of artists. Employed a lot of people to do something on this project. Charter member card, you're going to want to get that. So because that entitles you to free stuff. There's the Bogg sticker from 6 a.m. That'll be the next stretch goal. We just got Omer Glitch's Bogg there. It made as a trading card, and Apex Comics Sea Demon made into a card. And then, if we get the Bogg sticker, the Bogg, the Bogg sticker, then we've got Hopper and Lady Hopper stickers, and then original artwork by me uh, for the next stretch go. And if we go that high, I'm going to get a nosebleed. John, crowdfunded yet any of your projects?
We've done Fund My Comic, or not Fund My Comic, but the Exodus Z has been funded on 4 separate campaigns.
Okay.
Outside of that, though, that's the only experience I've had with it. Like any project I'm a part of, I promote it on all my social media pages, because I feel that if you're a part of the book, you should do what you can to try and help promote it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like with that Arachnus stuff that I've been talking about lately.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to the writer, because apparently the writer and the creator of Arachnus are going to have a crossover first, and then Arachnus is going to have his own book later this year. And he let me do a pinup for the book. I was talking to the writer. He let me do a pinup for the book, and I was like, if I can't do it, it only feels right that I try to promote the book wherever I can. And I wasn't expecting him to get him on live stream, but I figured I'd try, and they both agreed. So I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. As they
looks
got
like we lost Shadowhawk. You coming back in, Shadowhawk? Yeah, I think you should, promote any project that you have anything to do in. I knew who Arachnus was. A
Yeah.
lot of people out there probably wouldn't, 90s independent, probably lower print, but see, like the indie stuff, that's what I really enjoyed was
Hmm.
the obscure characters, because I didn't know anything about them. And then in collecting, I don't know about you, but you wind up with stuff that's not necessarily your jam, but you wind up with it because you're a collector. Maybe it's a free comic book day or whatever.
Yep.
You wind up with stuff that you didn't expect ever to be in your collection. Now, some people immediately get rid of that stuff. I keep everything. So
Well, that stuff I told you that I purged, a lot of it was stuff like that. It was like, where the heck did this come from? Or
mhm.
why do I have this? So I think I ended up just giving them to like a local thrift store or something so that someone else could hopefully get some enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, yeah. What was your jam as far as animation? You watch cartoons or any of that type of stuff?
Oh, I still watch cartoons now. A lot of in fact, I like cartoons so much that book I told that I had Donald DeLay do the that artwork for.
Hmm.
That book I built around everything I love from like all the Hanna-Barbera Filmation cartoons that I grew up watching in the 80s and 90s, like the Herculoids reruns or Space Ghost, stuff like that,
Good
Birdman,
stuff.
all the
Yeah.
way down through Thundar and the Thundercats, G.I. Joe,
Hmm.
Transformers, He-Man, all that stuff. I mixed up together and I'm building a world around that, and then I threw that into like a Mad Max kind of apocalyptic type world.
Hmm.
So I've got a book that I'm working on the side as well.
Which, some of that like Thundar leans into that already.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, the main character is I built around Thundar, and I
Hmm.
did like with my '90s book where I took the what I liked from those cartoons, mixed it with my pre-existing characters, and then changed enough so that hopefully I don't get in trouble for any kind of plagiarism,
Yeah.
but still well within like, damn, this is cool. This reminds me of cartoon blah 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 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I caught that golden era, what I think is golden era in the 60s of what Ted Kennedy kind of destroyed, with his legislation, with animation, because everything had to be PC and nonviolent. Well, you look at
Yeah,
Johnny Quest, people are getting killed and thrown off cliffs all the time.
yeah,
And it didn't scar me for life. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Kids are
no,
resilient, maybe more in their thinking and more pliable in their thinking than adults are when it comes to that type of stuff. They know that it's not reality. And if they
mm-hmm.
can't, distinguish between fantasy and reality, then you got
Yeah.
a problem.
Well,
But most kids aren't
e-
like that.
even when I was growing up in the '80s, even the Disney cartoons were pretty dark.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the Black Cauldron's one of my favorite Disney movies.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark. Like, it's The Secret of Nim. I know it wasn't a Disney cartoon,
Right.
but The Secret of
John
Nim
Blue.
was pretty dark.
Hmm. Hmm.
You had what was it? The Mouse Detective
Yeah.
came out around I think the same time that
Rescuers.
yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
those were pretty dark. Violent things happen, but yet I
Yeah.
haven't killed anybody yet.
Yeah. Witch Mountain, Escape to Witch Mountain, and
Yep.
just different themes. They've always been kind of dark and magical or whatever. Snow White, and the evil witch used to scare me when I was real young.
Yeah, but that
Just
was
like
the idea though.
yeah, that was the idea. Like Wizard of Oz, that witch always scared me. And
Yeah.
the monkeys, and just the shadow realm that wasn't part of your everyday life.
To a point, I think you need to experience things like that. That way you know how to deal with stuff as an adult.
I do too. Yeah, exactly. I think it's healthy. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but
Yeah. It's been a
where
long
where
time, but I've seen it.
where the guy in the top hat with the long nose and the hook and the net capturing children, scary as
Oh yeah. Well,
he's still
was it Pete's Dragon? I
Pete's
saw that
Dragon.
as a kid too. That was pretty scary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think kids are resilient, and that uh, they can adjust very easily, and yet I think we went through a bleak time in like the 70s and kind of started coming out of it in the 80s. But it was, in the 80s, I think the big change is that's when anime or Japanimation really took hold. I know they started early with like Astro Boy and some of the earliest stuff. I didn't know it as a kid because I was so young, but was early Japanimation or anime.
Well, some of the Saturday morning cartoons I grew up watching were anime that was released over here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it at the time because I didn't know what anime was until like the 90s when it became popular. But looking back at it now, like Robotech, Voltron, stuff like that, that was all anime.
Charlotte's Web, yeah. Some of those were scary things. Of course, Charlotte's Web being a book before it became animated, best-selling book. But yeah, when you Hansel and Gretel, I mean, when you go back, Hans Christian Andersen or some of that stuff's dark, the old fairy tales. But they were even written then to scare kids into good behavior, really.
Yeah.
I don't think it's changed that much. I'm glad to see in the early 90s we started coming out of that, John, that we could show a little bit of blood on Batman's face or whatever, or the Joker as he beat him up, and now I think we've kind of, the pendulum has swung back to where we're like, unless you get ultra violent. And I would say some of the probably Japanimation anime or whatever has been, with bullet, boom, 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 has become bloody.
Well, that's a big problem.
I don't think anybody's going, oh, that's scarring my children. They're going to become a juvenile delinquent because of it.
Even though my mom didn't want me to, I grew up playing with BB guns and squirt guns and all that, and I haven't shot anybody yet.
Yeah. I wish I could say that. I shot my brother in the leg by mistake, and then I said, okay, you can get me back. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. I found my finger right up there against the barrel. And yeah, he pulled the trigger. And I was like, he got me back. I let him get me back. But man, did it hurt, especially point blank like that. But swell up.
I've even gone as far as showing my oldest daughter a couple of years ago how to use a BB gun. It was a little pistol.
Yeah.
And it looks like a Glock, but I was right there next to her the entire time. And I kept going over the safety rules so that she knew how to responsibly handle the weapon. But that's a big thing that I have a big problem I have with a lot of the mainstream books is that they all have to be PC now, and they all have to be, what's the term now? All DEI and all that stuff. And it's like in a lot of the changes that I see they're making, instead of telling an engaging or entertaining story, they're more interested in what equal opportunity they can throw in there. If the character is already that way, by all means, go ahead, use the character. I genuinely don't care. But when all you're offering to update the book is that, you make it some kind of a sexual or racial minority, and that's all you're offering to the reboot that nobody asked for.
Yeah.
What kind of storytelling is that?
Yeah. What's your definition of a hero?
Somebody who does the right thing, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like the situation or even necessarily be a good guy yourself, but doing the right thing.
One that makes moral choices.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And knows that there's consequences for evil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about a villain? What's your definition of a villain?
The opposite of that, the people that deliberately do vile, horrific things just for the sake of being vile.
So premeditated, pre-planned.
Yeah. But that's what I
acts.
like when I read a comic book. That's what I like. I like seeing
Mm.
what motivates the villain to do what they do, that in turn causes the hero to do what they have to do to stop them. That's
I'm a
all I
big
want out of a
proponent that
comic
your
book.
heroes are only as interested as the villains. You know, the Fantastic Four wouldn't be the same without Doctor Doom.
No.
I mean, I think we see that, you know, that by consensus, every Fantastic Four movie has Doctor Doom in it. I'm like, they've got more villains than that. I love a
does.
good rogues gallery. You
Well,
know,
that's a big problem I have with a lot of the comic book related movies.
Mhm.
They take the name and they just do what they want with it, and then they wonder why it's not taken seriously and it flops. It's like they totally ignore the source material. In some
Yeah.
cases, you have decades of source material that you can build off of.
I know.
But
I keep screaming that at the top of my lungs, John. You know, stick to the source material. Fans will
yeah,
like it, but I
comic
think
books.
corporate gets their hand in it or something, or I know
Yeah.
better, or I can do this. And then bottom line, how many times you got to lose money to correct the course? You're not headed towards Hawaii. You're headed off into open ocean here. The rudder is off.
Comic books. Do you remember in I want to say the '90s where the character on the Alpha Flight came out as gay?
Oh,
Nobody
yeah,
cared.
yeah.
It was good
North
story. It was
Star.
considered
Yeah.
good storytelling.
Yeah.
Because they developed the character and they wrote it in a way that the character decided, this is how I want to be and this is how I want to lead my life.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
and they centered on that for like one issue and not like
Yeah.
a whole year.
yeah, and to me, from what I've seen, a lot of the stuff they do with the comic books now, the character is either suddenly that way. I really don't care what. I'm trying to think. I really don't care what team a fictional character plays for. I'm more interested in what world-ending plot did the hero overcome or narrowly avoid to overcome evil.
Well, you want consistency, right?
Yeah.
And when you're taking like Alan Scott, a Golden Age character,
Yeah.
and turning him gay, or Iceman, who always chased after the girls,
Yeah.
and
or
all of a sudden
Shatterstar.
he's gay in this
Yeah.
new series, it's out of character.
It is.
You're taking
That's the
50,
problem I have with
60
it.
years of that character and saying that doesn't exist. He's now this, and everybody's not buying it. At that point, why don't you create a similar character who's gay?
Well, that's what they have,
But
and
they
people
don't.
aren't buying it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand the thinking because
They're
they
trying
have
to
made
established
characters like
and
that.
going against type with them.
Yeah,
For the sake
that's the
of
problem
going
I have
against
with
type.
it is that they're
Yeah.
going against sometimes decades of lore built around a character. That's it. It's
Well, yeah, I
become a
mean, you
piss
had
poor
the
cliche.
question at that point: what is their motivation? What is their agenda? It's and it doesn't seem like they want to tell a good story. It's they've got another political point that they want to score with.
It seems like it seems like they're more interested in checking a box than telling a compelling story. It's like that Miles Morales, the latest Spider-Man. I think he's an interesting character, but when they started giving him all these different powers and having him be the new Thor or the new whatever, it's like that and Falcon. It's like they've been the poster child for being in someone else's shadow. Let them be their own character.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff to me has just become a worn out cliche because I don't know what they're thinking.
Well, the milestone, I didn't check into some of the milestone. I've books back in the 90s. I didn't pay them much creed, and that wasn't the demographic that they were. But
even then, they did it in a way where they were more concerned with telling compelling stories about minority characters rather than just trying to sell. It seems like they're just trying to sell this one aspect of a character, and they focus almost exclusively on that.
Well, can't we
And
get away from skin color? I just can't, I never get that.
I've got some of the old Milestone characters, or some of the old Milestone books. I like Icon and
Blood
Static when he first
Syndicate
came out.
and Static, and there was some
I
good
want to say what was Hardware.
hardware. There was some good material
Humberto
there.
Ramos drew Hardware.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, that's what got my attention, was his artwork.
Yeah.
But the characters I found interesting after I initially was like, hey, this artwork looks pretty cool. Let me pick this book up. Because I still got Icon #1. It's just like they didn't do anything with it. It's like, why did DC buy them? It's like the same thing with Marvel buying Malibu. They bought it just so they don't have to use it anymore.
Well, about a half dozen years, so no one else can steal the IP. About a half dozen years ago, they relaunched them, and I at my local comic shop, I've told this story before. I got all 5 of them, and I thought, why do they have to release 5 #1s all in the same month? Don't they know that hits your pocketbook? Just bam, bam, bam. Okay, they want to release it when they do, all at one time. Okay. So I take the first one, and I don't even remember. Maybe it was Hardware, maybe it was Icon. I don't know. Opened it up. Black Lives Matter protesting. That was when it was hot and heavy.
Yeah.
That week or week before, just right at the right time. So prescient, timely message. I didn't know if it's pro or con, but I thought later, I just closed it up, put all 5 books back, and bought something else. I said, no, not going there. I don't even want to hear this on the news, much less read about it 20 years later.
Comic books are about escapism. I understand to a point you need to have some realism in there.
Yeah.
But still, it's supposed to be entertainment. If I want to watch the news, I'll watch the news. I don't necessarily need it when I'm trying to entertain myself with a comic book or a cartoon I'm watching or whatever.
To me, that was kind of a big draw, I think, for the big difference between DC and Marvel fans. But I bought both. But my jam, especially starting in the 80s and on up, was that obscure indie stuff that I really got excited because that inspired me. Because after a while, you know what to expect out of Spider-Man or Batman or whatever.
Yeah.
And these indie little characters, you're like, ooh, Legion X. Wow. I wonder what they're about, And, they seem to be more grassroots characters that I just, really like. Grips from Tim Vigil or something like that. I don't know this character. What's this all about? They call him a more violent Wolverine. Let's check that out.
Growing up, I've never had a problem treating anybody with common decency and respect. As long as you do that to me, I'll do the same to you. I don't care what your race, nationality, sexual preferences are this week or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it just seems so much lately that it is constantly want to just batter you with whatever hot topic is going on at the moment. It's like I all this stuff's on the news.
And it wears on you after a while.
It does.
I haven't had inward streaming TV in probably 20 years. Maybe. I keep up with things. I can always get on the internet and, watch TV shows or streaming services or the local news, and certainly I'll do that if a tornado is on my doorstep, But other than that, I filter a lot of that junk out of my life, John. I got to be honest, and just concentrate on living my life, being a responsible citizen and treating others as you would have them treat you, right?
Pretty much.
And just nose to the grindstone, good work ethic.
Mostly what I do now is that when I'm not working, I'll come home. I'll go to the gym, usually after work, to work out frustrations or whatever. And then I come home, play with the kids, say hi to the wife and all that stuff. And then I'm drawing the comic books. I mean, I still find ways, apparently, to get drawn into drama online. Because I constantly have to tell myself, just keep scrolling, John. Just keep scrolling. But for the most part, I don't thrive off of drama. So
there is a draw, right? If there's a car wreck, you can't help but look, right? I mean, you're kind of captivated for it in the motion, but you do have to make a conscious decision. All right, stop looking at that and drive, or you're going to have a wreck, or don't get caught up in that drama.
Yeah.
I just filter it out. I
Well,
don't I
I
don't have
try
a
to.
problem with what
I'm
everybody else is doing because I don't pay attention.
I have a firm "you don't fuck with me, I'm not going to fuck with you" policy. Listen, it's truly even before I joined the military, I had friends of all different nationalities, creeds, ethnicities, religions. None of that stuff mattered to me. How do you treat me? How do you treat now my family that I have? As
Mhm.
long as you're treating us with common decency and respect, we don't have to get along to treat people with common decency and respect. If you can do that and be a civilized person, then we're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the best thing about comics to you?
There's something for almost everybody.
Hmm.
Even now, if you like, no matter who I talk to, if you like mainstream comics, good for you, man, or girl, or whoever. There is something in comic books for just about everybody.
Hmm.
That's what I like about it. If
I've seen a lot of trends towards westerns. I thought I
I've
was
been
one
seeing a
of the.
lot of those lately too.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually got a western character I'm going to do something with, and he
Well,
really that's kind of breaks type for me because I've been more into the superhero genre and
yeah.
always was. I wasn't one to pick up a Jonah Hex or anything like that, but I can see value in it now.
Well,
As a
that's why I
writer.
was saying earlier how I followed artists instead of titles. That
Hmm.
way, I can get exposed to more artwork.
Hmm.
Because
Uh,
I've got an idea in my notebook about a western, but I've got a little more than just the name of the book, and then maybe what I'm going to call the town and the names of characters and stuff. So it's not really much more than an idea at this point.
mhm.
But I have been seeing, like you, I have been seeing a lot more of them lately. But yeah, I still have my love for superheroes. Like most of my professional work has been horror related.
Yeah.
So
But
I've been
now I
trying to.
heard you say cartoonist. Do you like cartoony? Do you like to, you know, go
I think
towards more of the animated style with some of your work?
I have an animated influence in my work. Is every once in
Hmm.
a while I can see proportions that I use or body language and stuff like that. I'm not perfect, but
Speed lines, maybe
some. But I
some.
try not to get
Yeah,
too crazy with it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
Co-
what's the
More of the Western style, right?
I think I saw Brian Hitch say somewhere that he had hated using speed lines. Was it him? I believe it's Brian Hitch. He was
Hmm.
saying he hated drawing speed lines because he thought how they're just terrible, and so he will draw things that show movement in the comic book instead of just drawing like a million speed lines. He'll show how the hand is moving or how someone's hair is moving to show the direction the character is falling or something like
Hmm.
that. So I try to
Hmm.
do stuff like that and use my speed lines sparingly. But I've got a little section on my bookshelf of different mangas that I like too, just because I enjoy art. I
Hmm.
grew up in North Carolina and in Southern California. And then when I was in California, that's when I got exposed to graffiti. So to a point, I even see that as artwork.
Oh
Now,
yeah, I love
granted,
graffiti. Yeah,
some people
it's
are,
amazing what they do with logo,
yeah,
letters and all like that.
and tattoos are artwork. I see art in just about
Hmm.
everywhere that I
Hmm.
look. But
But now that's only one part of it, especially if you want to do your own thing.
yeah,
John, do you consider yourself a writer?
that '90s book that I'm doing is the first thing I've ever written, or will be the first thing I've ever written professionally,
Hmm.
outside of like plot ideas and helping the writer that I'm working with uh, tweak stuff. So we'll see.
Well, I often, when I collaborate with another artist, I'll thumbnail out to show them kind of
Yeah,
approximate what I want, and so that they don't have to make it up whole cloth, and I arrive at
yeah,
the beats that I want, the pacing I want, and
yeah,
I think most people appreciate that you can have
yeah,
some artistic skill because a lot of commission work is like that. They think they know what they want, and they want you to do it, but then it comes to you doing it. Well, that's not exactly what I had in mind. That's why I
Yeah.
don't like commissions.
Well, I like commissions. It's a way to make money. I try to get a clear idea of what I want from the person.
Mhm.
Usually with the books that I've done, it's the writer who's paying me to draw the story. So they either have an idea already what they want to do, or I'll collaborate with them, because I think comics are a collaborative medium. So I get an idea that, hey, you want to do this, or hey, I was reading the script, and I thought maybe if we do it from this perspective instead of that one, better. And then if they're just like dead set, this is how I want it, then fine. I try to add my 2 cents, but if that's not what you want to do, ultimately you're the customer.
What are some inkers that have influenced you? Your favorite inkers? Because we often don't think about that.
Not
I
a
have my
lot.
list.
Usually with me, it's artists that I admire that turn out
Mhm.
to ink their own work.
Yeah.
Jimmy Palmiotti's good, but I liked it mainly when he and Joe Quesada worked together a lot, just because he had a good sense of shading, and then the rendering that he added along with the shading.
Well,
Where
there are
Gail,
great art teams, right? I
yes,
love Steve Ditko inks, who was an artist in his own right, over Jack Kirby. I think for me, it doesn't get much better than that. A lot of people will say Joe Sennett over Kirby because he did so much over Joe Kirby, or like Mike Royer over Jack Kirby. But for me, it's probably like Terry Austin over John Byrne. I can't imagine Frank Miller without Klaus Janson. There's
didn't
just
Terry
some
Austin
great
do a lot of stuff with Art Adams too?
Art Adams. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
And see, they would mesh well, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that Art Adams even needs an inker. He could probably ink his own stuff.
Well, I've seen Rob Liefeld's work stand out more when Shelby Robertson inked him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you had that long running association with Jim Lee and I can't remember Williams' first name. The inker that Jim Lee had for like most of his Wildcats work. I'm terrible with names, but Kyle Oates and like Kelly Jones, they've been a big influence on me over the last, say, 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Because when I met Kyle, I saw him working on sketches on like I think it was a sketch cover. All it was like a bust, and he did it with one of those cheapy ballpoint pens. And just the way he added his shadow was in, and then he Scott Williams, that guy. Thank you. But yeah, guys like that have a strong shading presence to their work instead of just relying on intricate line work. Dale Keown, he's good, but I like believable anatomy too. I don't expect it to be like 100% accurate, because comic books are about exaggeration to a point.
Yeah, especially with artists like Bart Sears.
Yes. Oh my God. But yeah, his Brutes and Babes are why I bought Wizard initially. Turns out the rest of the magazine was great too, but his articles were the big reason why I bought so many of them. I fund his books was my first experience to crowdfunding.
What do you see in the next 5 years going on? Especially within the independent scene. And are we doing it right now? I mean, besides the drama that you've criticized, what else? I mean,
drama aside, I think the independent route is the way to go, because tact is not one of my qualities. So I'm trying to think of a tactful way.
Hey, let it all hang out. It's okay.
It was like all the nonsense with Diamond. I think is self-inflicted. They made a career out of screwing people over.
Well, they had a monopoly for decades.
Yeah, so I think it's karma finally biting them in the ass. Now, granted, that does affect a lot of comic book stores and the mainstream comics, stuff like that, which is unfortunate. But I think the indie comics are going to start standing out a little bit more. for nothing else, because they tend to be more creative, in my opinion. The art tends to be better, just because I think I get more excited about comic books with an individual style,
Well,
rather
comics
than
in the grocery stores and in the pharmacies and
oh,
places like that have
that was
went
a
by the
bonus.
wayside. And now, after the pandemic, you heard all the time of the comic book shops closing down, and there was probably only about 3,000 something in the whole freaking country. There's probably less than that now. How do
I
we
wouldn't
save our
doubt it.
local comic book shops, or do we? Are they like theater movie houses that are going under?
Well, one of the ones I go to around me, they're a cafe and a comic book store, but
Mm-hmm.
they also have
Combination then, offering
yeah,
something.
they
Yeah.
also have tabletop gaming that they do as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one shop that's within like a mile of my house. They do a lot of D&D stuff, and like half the store, the other half is comic books.
I
So
don't know if you noticed this back here, John, but this is the latest DC comic book stand that they're putting at
yep,
Dollar Trees. So
yep,
that might be a step in the right direction. I know even in, while I've been doing this, been on YouTube, that a lot of people have said we need to get them in, get a deal with like dollar stores and things like that.
Well, I was excited when I heard Walmart was selling comic books until I
Yeah.
went to my local Walmart, and I went on a wild goose chase to find them. If I
Mm-hmm.
found them, they were just thrown around, bent up,
Man up.
damaged.
Yeah.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
no one's going to buy it anyways, because now it's damaged. Whether the
Mm-hmm.
employee did it or the some of the customers, it's like what's the point in doing this if you're
Comics are
not going to care?
condition sensitive unless you're like a snotty nosed kid, right? That's like, oh, and
Yeah,
doesn't matter to them anyway, right?
yeah,
But it does seem like a lot of collectors are like, ooh, let me put my gloves on I know I'm that way.
yeah,
I always tried to get the very best condition one. I always hated to go to see my new comics and they're already bent over on the
yeah.
rack because somebody just doesn't know how to gingerly look through them,
Well, even when I'm going through the back issues, I just kind of thumb through my fingers like this.
Mm-hmm.
I can see, like, usually the credits are on the top of the book. I can see who drew it and who wrote it and stuff like that. Oh, hey, I don't have that issue. But I mean, that's just me. I'm not necessarily going to put rubber gloves on, because even with every book I buy, I usually, once I bring it home, I'll open it at least once so that I can see the artwork on the inside. It's like, for me, comic books are a visual medium, but if the writing is good too, then that's a perk. But
There
for
you
me,
go. Right.
I'm
Yeah.
mainly there.
But really,
mainly there for
anything
the
can
dynamic
take you
art.
out of the experience, right? Bad art or bad inking or bad
Yeah.
lettering, bad
Yeah.
coloring. I mean, there's a
I don't care
lot of
who wrote it.
steps to making a good comic, aren't there?
Yeah. Well, you need both to have a comic book. But
Mhm.
for me, if it's badly written and drawn well, I'm okay. But if it's drawn badly, I don't care how well it's written, I won't buy it.
Yeah, I had to come off that condition sensitive somewhat. I will buy books in lesser shape if that's my only option. I try and get the best condition when I can. But at one point, if it wasn't near mint, I was like not having it. Just about.
Well, if I'm at a comic book store, I'll try to find a decent shape. Especially
Yeah.
now, you can't read comic books in the shop anymore. You have to buy it already bagged. So shape isn't really a big problem. But I bought a copy of Swamp Thing #1 at a con for like $20. But there was
Wow.
a piece ripped off of like the bottom corner.
Uh-huh.
But still, I had Swamp Thing #1. So
At least you have it, right?
yeah.
You can always trade that in for a better copy or something. Level up.
I've had most of his Bernie Wright's and Swamp Things. I've had most of his run since I was like 14, and I just happened to find #1 at a con. Yep,
that's 1 through 10 right there in like a little digest.
Yeah, I bought a book like that, not realizing it was a pocket-sized digest. On one of my deployments, I got to open up the box. I'm like, what the hell? Well, that's
See,
what
I
I
had a
get for
little
not.
library of these
Yeah,
little
that's what I
digests,
get for not
and
reading
really
the
that's how I
description.
learned about the DC stories and DC characters. Um, oh yeah, yeah. There you go. Mm. Look how
It's
that
on a
pops
cool
too. That
black and white
purple
word.
back there. Yeah. Okay. Black and
But
white.
I bought it thinking, oh, hey, cool, I'm going to be able to finish my Swamp Thing run because I love Bernie Wrightson's work. And then I opened the book up. I'm like, oh, damn it.
Well, I mean, it is black and white, but you get to see kind of like in the Marvel Essentials or the DC Showcase, the line artwork better
Yeah.
without the coloring.
Well,
I know they're doing a lot of facsimile issues now. It seems like most local comic book shops are either cashing in on dead artists like John Romita Sr. or George Perez. They're coming out with a lot of the things that were not used for covers. So they kind of keep their legacy alive, but I don't get it. You know, they know what sells, but then they do this gay pride month or all this other junk. And I'm like, oh God, don't you know you're just driving these people you're trying to cater to. They don't even buy comics.
That's my problem. Everyone should be proud of who and what they are. That's fine, but shoving it down people's throats like that is the problem I'm having. Those people you're pandering to, that's all it is. It's pandering. Like you said, they're not buying the books.
Yeah,
it's
Shadowhawk doesn't have
they're
to know Wolverine's sex life to read the book.
Yeah.
That's not the reason he's buying the book.
Yeah, the way I look at it is most people are sexual beings in one form or another.
And you would probably agree we're in an over sexualized society.
Except married people, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's in our entertainment all the time. Right?
Yeah, and I'm, with the exception of like asexual people, just about everybody is a sexual being. That's where my interest stops. It's like, okay, good. This person enjoys having sex. Whatever. Like he was saying, I don't need to know who a fictional character is banging. And I know there for a little while, they're having some kind of like a threesome with Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Wolverine
on the moon.
And then there was, I heard rumors that Wolverine was suddenly gay or something, and it's like, why does that matter?
Yeah.
I mean, they're fictional characters.
How does that enhance the character? I mean,
yeah. And even if you wanted to make that part of the storyline, fine. But if you're focusing so much on that one aspect of the character, that's not storytelling anymore.
Yeah, drama and conflict, you know, I mean, that romance element, you know, and you got that in like the older X-Men, at least the John Byrne. I know the John Byrne and because that's where that kind of came with, you know, with the Jean, Cyclops, and Wolverine. And then, eventually, you know, a few years ago, they relented and said, okay, Wolverine did Cyclops or whatever. They alluded to that. And I'm like, where do you even get that?
Yeah.
Where do you get that Iceman is gay? And I thought they were messing with that.
Well, there was even.
You're going against.
I don't know if it was just the X-Men cartoon, but there for a little while, Storm and Wolverine were a couple, which I think it was. I think it was like Days of the Futures Past or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that was a storyline. So hey, cool, that's fine. But
explore that. Explore how they would get along or whatever.
But that was just a small part of the story. And it's like, that's fine. Go ahead. You develop the character. These two people develop feelings for each other. Okay, let's move on. You know that they care for each other. They're there in this dire situation. What are they doing to get out of this dire situation?
Yeah. I mean, nothing brings you close together but then having life and death experiences.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the soap operatic, you know, drama and cliffhangers all about, right? These characters are probably going to bond over time into a cohesive family.
Well, that's one thing I liked about the X-Men was that they were all about inclusivity, because the X-Men were already genetic outcasts as it was.
Mhm.
but yet they still fought for everyone's right to be their own person.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, I even gotten like online debate with people about how the X-Men weren't about inclusivity until just recently, when they started shoving it down everyone's throats.
The X-Men are kind of an anomaly to me because they weren't popular for decades with a lot
I'd
of
say
fans.
like the 70s or something, when they came out with like the second
70s
version of the team.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
when they
That's
started
when they
gaining popularity. And
started
then,
gaining. You're right.
yeah,
They had come out of just reprinting.
yeah,
Yeah.
during the 70s and 80s, when they were having Storm and was it, I can remember, not Warpath, but the Native American guy that was on the X-Men for a little while. He was Warpath's like older brother.
Thunderbird.
Yeah, that one, Thunderbird. He was on the team. That's when they introduced the Russian, who at the time, Americans and Russia were enemies for all intents and purposes. And then you had
the Cold
German
War
guy.
was going on.
Yeah, you had the German guy who was Nightcrawler, and then you had the Irish guy who was Banshee,
and Sunfire from Japan.
Sunfire from Japan.
Who really didn't. He wanted to be on his own and didn't mesh and didn't last.
Yeah. But still, he was on the team. And then you had the Jewish girl when Shadowcat or Sprite, that's what she started off as.
I think Kitty Pryde. Yeah.
But to me, the X-Men have always been about that. And then you had Bishop as well, who's a black guy. And then, I mean, hell, the book's always been about that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ginkgo. Yeah, that's
what I liked about it, though,
artwork. If you like his artwork, he does Tome of Reckoning.
What I liked about the books back then is that they had that stuff in there, but they had it in an entertaining story, not the other way around like they're trying to do now.
Yeah. I always like to see where Kitty Pryde and Colossus was going to go, or some other character, and sometimes they did, like with Dazzler and Beast, Henry McCoy of all people. They did.
Dazzler was actually one of my favorite X-Men because I enjoyed playing that video game. She was the character I would pick the most, just because she had that distance attack that she could throw her light beams or whatever, make like a bomb. So
do you appreciate? I have to ask you if you're talking about Dazzler, because she kind of came out of the disco scene of the late 70s, and that's how she was first drawn. Do you like disco music?
Not really. I mainly got into Dazzler because of her, because I'm too young for disco. I came out after disco died.
Yeah.
But I got into Dazzler because of the video game, and then that's when I got into her comic books after that.
Was that when she had the blue outfit with sort of the starburst?
Yeah, in the video game, I think she had the brown jacket on.
Yeah.
And then I got into her own title, and then I ended up getting a bunch of older X-Men comics, and only to have her not actually do a whole heck of a lot in there. I'm like, damn it.
Did you like it? Now, I know this is early for you too, but see, they kind of went against type with Storm and gave her a mohawk.
I liked it because it was story development. I think good writing is when you can't tell what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to always like it.
And the fans will tell you if they hate it or not, right?
Yeah. But the Mohawk things, when she fought Callisto with the Morlocks, and she decided that's how she was going to live her life. Hey, okay, cool.
Yeah. It kind of made sense.
Yeah.
But you hated to see that beautiful hair and everything, and all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, I'm like,
wow.
Well, whatever.
And then there's friction between he and who's going to lead the X-Men. Cyclops or Storm, and they were going at it. Yeah.
I mean, I thought a good resolution to that was when they decided to have the blue and gold X-Men team in the 90s. Like, okay, cool. We got two different teams now. So now people can pick whoever their favorite X-Men is and just follow either Uncanny or regular X-Men.
To go back to that Walmart, fortunately, my Walmart, which is in walking distance of this house, there for 2 years, and I was really sad they stopped doing that. I collected every one except one, and I think that was a special Batman 85th anniversary edition. I don't think they either got it or it sold out immediately, and I didn't see it. But that's the only one I like, as far as I know. And I know around that time, Target was released one or two 100 pages as well around that time. I have not picked up all those, but all the Walmart ones I did get. I was
We had
able
the
to.
Walmart. We had the Walmarts around us that were doing Marvel and DC books, but it was all the same ones. That the even then you had to know where to find them, and if you could find them, they were terrible shape, and it's like
and some of those brand new. I'd get there when they got them brand new, but they would have printing marks, or they weren't the best quality printed stuff. At least the ones that went to my local Walmart, and I just
the stuff they were.
I just had to settle on the best one I could find in a lot of in a lot of those.
It's I can't remember if it was like ones that they couldn't sell otherwise. They just gave to Walmart, but it just seems like nobody involved with that idea cared.
Well, see, I love that, because one of the first comics that I ever bought was a 60-cent DC reprint of, like, I didn't know it at the time, but Jim Shooter early Legion stories with Kurt Swan artwork, and maybe I think Mike Grell doing Legion at that time. He did the Legion cover on that. I just love those big ones that dealt with stories that were reprinting from a decade earlier, the mid 60s. I really enjoyed that in the mid 70s, in that book.
Well, I've got books from when I was a kid that Walmart sold in like the hard plastic, not cases, the hard plastic boxes. I have Savage Dragon 1, 2, and 3 that Walmart had sold, and actually I think I have it.
Are you a toy collector at all? Did you go to KB's or Toys R Us or anything?
But I've gone to places like that, and then they would have the price sticker that they wanted. They put on the comic book, ruining any kind of resale value. But I remember Walmart used to sell them like this.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
And then I've got the Luke Cage as well. This one I bought extra copies
in the plastic clamshell.
Yeah, but the ones that we're talking about just a couple of years ago, it's like they were the cheap ones. They already had like 1 million copies of that no one was buying anyway. So that's all they gave Walmart. The only people that found those were the ones that found it by accident, or they searched the whole store to find one little cubby hole where they were actually kept at.
Yeah, the Alliance ones were all over the place, at the different.
Yeah, that's a whole other one. Oh man.
Yeah. I've heard of them being in the auto department, in the pharmacy, in the book department, or somewhere around the book department. But it varied from Walmart to Walmart. We talked about that the other night.
If they even actually put them out.
Yeah. If they actually even had them, right? They were only at select stores, and that's one reason I wanted to collect those 100 pagers that DC were coming out with, is because you just don't find comics out in the wild. That's why I bought these. I didn't need this new 52 reprinted stuff, although all these, except maybe for one Robin right there, that when he wore the first red and black suit, and I bought that originally on eBay as a back issue. The new 52 and the Rebirth stuff, I've gotten some, but I think as far as these issues are concerned, except for that one Robin, I didn't have any of these. And I bought multiples. I bought enough to get the whole stand, and I just bumped into that by accident. I never thought I'd actually see one, because I'd been hearing for a couple months that they were putting those in dollar stores, but never saw any.
Well, that's another big problem I have with a lot of the mainstream books. Like, they seem to cater to the collector's market. I remember when I was a kid, granted, the point is to sell books. They'd have some big storyline that you'd have to buy, say, 6 different books to get, or sometimes 12 different books to get the entire story. Yeah. But now it's like they're screw you. We're just going to take your wallet for everything we can, and you have to buy this. That's why I have a problem with the way Diamond sells books as well. Is that you have to buy, say, 50 copies of this cover you don't want, so that you can get one or two of the cover that you do want that you know is going to sell. It's like how is that helping anybody except you?
Yeah, it's become like one of those things you see at a convention where they have convention, special covers or something. I don't have a problem with that, but I almost had to be there to get there. But you got a lot of people showing up just to get those convention exclusives, just to flip them on eBay.
Sometimes
And
before they
that's
even
not
left the
going to help the
convention.
hobby by and large. That's not going to make new readers.
Comic books used to be about fans.
Yeah. And it used to be more creator centric, right? When you went to conventions, and more about the creators. Now it's about the new Netflix deal or the new movie that's releasing and celebrities.
That's another reason why I like 90s books so much, is that they were more for the creators. Because without them, you wouldn't have the multi-million-dollar deals and people buying your books all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they've made enough deals now that they kind of got the ball rolling. But I got to hand it to Stan Lee. Look how many years he was pushing to get all the way back in the 60s, starting with the 66 cartoons, and then Spider-Man 67 and Fantastic Four, and then the live action stuff in the 70s and the 80s, and then finally he lived long enough to break into the big time, into the big movie set and start what we call the MCU now.
It's gotten to the point with me where I don't even want to work for Marvel or DC anymore.
Yeah.
Just because I know, I don't expect to get rich just drawing comic books. But is that you're not even going to pay me a living wage. So I don't have to draw Spider-Man when it's not going to pay me enough to even keep my lights on or pay my rent.
Yeah. Well, nobody really goes into comics to make $1 million, do they?
Oh, no. I never expected to become a millionaire. If it happens, hey, great. Because, there's still that 1 in a million chance it could happen. But it's like but still, if you want me to work for you, comic books or otherwise, you have to pay me enough to live off of.
Yeah, pay rates have actually went down, and colorists definitely should be paid more, I would think. Probably all aspects of the penciler, inker, or any aspect of it, I would think, because at one time they were getting paid pretty good rate, per page.
Yeah.
But that's even down, but that's been a struggle since the mid 70s when certain individuals broke from Marvel and started Atlas Comics, which only lasted a few months, but they were drawing off, like Pat Broderick and Neil Adams and Howard Chaykin and Steve Ditko.
Well, how many times did Kirby bounce back and forth between Marvel and DC?
Yeah, and Charlton. He did a lot of stuff for Charlton. Charlton, I think, kept him going all his career. I think he pretty much was about the work and not the drama, like you said. He couldn't take Spider-Man in a certain direction. The way I kind of approach it, John, I don't know about you, but I like trying to tell the story visually. I think very cinematically. I think that's where movies have influenced me the most.
Yeah.
And then you look at somebody like a master like Buscema, and you look at all the angles and just how he sets things up from panel to panel. It's amazing. He had that down. It's amazing what he could capture in just a few lines, on a page, and just at the different angles and perspectives. And he makes it look so easy. He's just a master at it. I'll show you a few examples here. I just happen to have some Buscemas here if you want to look. From Savage sort of Conan, and he would do preliminary drawings on these big sheets that are bigger than 7 by 11, 17 by 11, but just you know, how he would just stereally
Mm-hmm.
put these in, you know, just the different from panel to panel, from the close ups to, you know, mid shots to far shots, and um, just amazing stuff. How easy, you know, he makes it. And then he would put these on a light box.
Yep.
You know, Conan there walking away and getting up on a horse, and
Yeah, I've done that myself because I have a glass top drawing table that I have a light box inside of, like the framework that supports the tabletop. I have my little light box. It's probably like that thin. I slid it inside of my desktop. I use my desktop as a light box. That way, when I do my thumbnails, a lot of times I can easily just retrace out onto the Bristol board what I already figured out on the thumbnails. I try to do most of my thinking on the thumbnails. That way, since the Bristol board isn't exactly cheap, I try to do all my thinking before I even get to it. That way, I don't waste the Bristol board.
right, don't ruin a page or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I try and tell the story visually.
There's actually, here's one of my
even without dialogue, you can probably follow the story. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
And so, what are you using there? Yellow?
I think it was like some kind of orange. I like using colored
hold
lead.
that back up. Let's see that. Let's see that a little bit. You know, you're flashing these things a little bit fast. Okay, so what kind of project was this here?
This is actually Exodus Z.
Okay.
I got this tube of different colored leads at an art store.
Uh-huh.
And usually with me, I'll do my basic shapes and figure out where I want to place everything with a lighter color. And then when I want to do the whatever equipment the character is wearing, I'll do it in a darker color. And then my final details I'll do with a regular pencil. But usually once I do the thumbnail like this, I send it to the writer or the customer that paid me for it, and to make sure we're both on the same page. It's easier to fix anything here than it is when getting it on the Bristol board, and they decide after I had it inked, oh, hey, I want to change this one minor thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on, John. You know, usually we close it at about 2 hours, but
okay.
You know, we can continue talking if you want. But what do you think the draw is to these drawing shows? Because you and I and Omer have been doing very well when it comes to these drawing shows, and other channels have done. Do they like Tank Ferret says? I think people like seeing how to make the sausage.
Yeah, they do. They don't care who it is. People like seeing how things are made. I even had times where I've taken my sketchbooks with me on every deployment I've ever been on, and it's always been a way of sometimes therapy, or at the very least, it's a way for me to stay out of trouble. If I'm busy drawing, I'm not doing something I'm not supposed to. But I would even take it with me to like coffee shops, or I'd want to go to the mall just to get out of the house. I would go sit in like the food courts somewhere in the mall and just work on whatever art piece I was working on. And just about every time, somebody would stop and say, hey, what are you doing? And people are just naturally curious about, and I think that curiosity only heightens when they find somebody that they enjoy how they draw. I don't know.
Well, I knew that's what drew me to looking at Ethan's and others that were professionally doing comic book artwork, because, you know, that was something I was wanting to do myself. And, you know, and then I found out about the crowdfunding model, and then we were off to the races. You know, we had a direction to go.
That reminds me, I found we're at my wife went to some yard sales this weekend, I found somebody that was selling comic books. I was kind of hoping I would, and I actually found somebody bought sell comic books. I found one of Ethan's old Impulse comics. Because
That's
I
cool.
I get to a point where if there's artists that I like, when I said I follow their try to follow their career, I have sections of work dedicated to Ethan or Bart Sears, Joe Quesada, David Finch.
I've done that too. I've went back and even, bought some of the stuff that I didn't even know was out there,
Oh yeah.
And then when I was showing collectibles on the show, I would get a box down and show and go, and these names, because of YouTube, meant something to me. I'm like, oh, that's a Shane Davis. I knew I had that, but I didn't know it was his work. And that's a Kyle Ritter colored
I love
piece.
Shane's work on it. Was it Captain Comet? I thought it was an awesome book.
Oh yeah. That what was it? That was the very first thing he did at DC.
Oh, wow.
Actually, he said, yeah.
For some reason, I've always been drawn to the more obscure characters. Didn't matter if it was a cartoon as a kid or a comic book, whatever. Like, that's one of the things I liked about Suicide Squad. They tend to deal with the more obscure characters that they didn't know what else to do with. And initially that's what got me to read that book. And it turns out that I like the formula, but if I ever meet Shane, I'm going to see if I can get him to sign my Captain Comet that I have.
A lot of creators like Joe Kubert, they have military experience. How's that kind of informed in your art? And have you considered doing a war book at some time?
Somebody pays me. Yeah. But I don't have any plans for mine, because one of the things I grew up was, I want to say, since I was mostly 90s books, a lot of the actions, like, that's not how you throw a punch, or that's not how you would hold that weapon. Little stuff like that because of my time in the military. But I've come to realize, because I've been drawing comic books for about 7 years now, I've come to realize that the right way isn't the right way to draw it necessarily. Sometimes you draw it like that for the dramatic effect, but
well, here's a perfect example. I had a friend that was a nurse, and in TV shows and different stuff, when they would subdue people, sometimes they'd take a syringe and go right into that. That would drive her crazy. That, you don't do that. That's not, but it's dramatic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was like my 90s book, I call it Suicide Run.
Or do you have a clone? Yeah. I'm not telling. I've got a stand-in. There's a hand in my back right now. I'm just a puppet. No, I put in the time. Well, damn that Omer glitch. He never came in, and I did send him the link. But he's got me, and Peter, he does the pizza rounds.
Yeah.
And so I had this stack of pizza rounds, and we'd never gotten together to do anything. So I started doing these pizza rounds, and Omer's got me doing the color stuff, which is another layer of time to put in the color choices. Do you work in color at all, or
on private commissions? I will, but because I have like Copic markers and stuff like that. I don't know where the hell that came from. Jeez. But yeah, I do Copic markers. That's about it.
Yeah. But now those get expensive, right? I've been marking.
Oh, yeah.
I found this, and one reason probably that I don't want to blame just Omer, but I got this nice set that are very akin to Copics at Walmart, Azure, and then I think you might have mentioned 5 and or somebody mentioned 5 and below. I got this 21 marker set, and that's what I
bought some of those for my daughter.
That's what I've been doing these rounds from, and they've worked out very well, I think. I don't know if I've got Potato Cam. You can tell me if it's coming in
but no,
good or not.
I have this mentality that if I want to work on a professional level, I try to buy professional quality materials. And so I buy a lot of the Copics. I don't buy them that much anymore because I found that Michaels has a I can't remember the name of the brand, but they have a more cost-effective alternative. So if I can find something just as good for a little bit cheaper, then I do that. But like my wife only lets me in art stores now with an allowance, as I have so many ink pens and brush sizes that she's like, yeah, you can't.
Well, we used to have like Binkley's art store here, which is local, but I mean, about the only thing we've got. We do have a Michael's, and I've not been in there, and I had a lot of money to go in there and check that out. But I've been at Michael's in other places, and I know they carry some art stuff. And we've got a Hobby Lobby that's even closer, but they're kind of limited on what they carry. You know, they do carry some Copics, but it doesn't seem like they that they're not selling well enough to even restock. So they're out of a lot of stuff.
And even then, and people have taken so many of them that it's become a hassle just to buy any because they're in that locked cabinet. You have to find whoever the right employee is with the key.
Yeah. And they're like $8 a piece. They're very expensive, and you only get so much use out of them.
I think that's one reason why I've backed away from coloring so much. I mean, if somebody wants me to, I can, but I don't necessarily advertise that I color stuff in anymore. Excuse me. But usually if Michaels doesn't have like the pen that I need, then Hobby Lobby will. We have those are within, let's say, 5 miles of where I live. And then there's a place called Sam Flax that's in Orlando that I can go to within like a half hour, 45-minute drive. And then when I'm in Tampa, they have a store called Dick Blick that has almost, it's like a chain art store, but all they sell is just art supplies.
One of the neatest things I picked up at Hobby Lobby, John, was and very affordable, by the way, was this battery powered electric racer for like under $5, $4.49 for one of these things.
I've seen those. I don't think I've bought one yet, but I've seen them.
Yeah, that's cheap enough. Even I'll buy that thing, What's one of the neatest tools?
I'm an eraser's worst enemy.
Well, John, if somebody said, look, John, I want to make my own comic, what do I need to get started? What would you tell them?
I have like on my YouTube channel, I have a folder with but I have a playlist of all different types of videos to learn how to draw comic books. I would definitely, there we go. I would definitely look at how to draw them. I don't necessarily think that the materials matter so much, but it's got to be something you want to learn how to do because it's not easy.
What's the hardest thing about making a comic, you think?
The discipline it takes to finish it. It's easy to come up with the idea. Hey, it'd be cool if I did this, that, and then make a cool storyline. But like when I finished my Suicide Run book, I had done comic books for other people, but I had never felt so accomplished as I did when I finished drawing and inking that last page. The Suicide Run is completely drawn right now. I've been talking with Mark Polton. I think I'm going to try to get him to be my editor to make sure the writing is as good as it needs to be. But yeah, I had never felt so accomplished as I did when I finished drawing that whole thing. Because coming up, the idea is easy, but the time it takes to sit there and draw, no matter if you do it digitally or you do it the way I'm doing it, it takes discipline to sit there and draw and figure out how to make what's in your head show up on the screen or on the paper.
Yeah. And the best it can be, and the best you can do it at the time.
You can't just draw stick figures and call it a day.
Yeah. Because comics is about movement and being dramatic and maybe sometimes over the top, You mentioned Buscema talking about John. I loved Salbacema, and one of the first comic books I ever read was Defenders number 15, where the Hulk, just hits somebody across the page, that over the top.
That's where the skill comes in handy, because you have to not only know how to throw a punch, you have to show how that individual character is going to throw a punch. Because the Hulk isn't going to move the same way that Valkyrie or Nighthawk, I think he was on the team for a little while. They're all going to throw punches differently. And then you have to not only know how they throw it, but you have to know how to draw how they throw their punches. Like that, see?
Yeah. And we talked about that on a panel. You rarely see a fist connect.
Yeah.
You see the wind up and the after effect of what the reaction, but you never see one of the follow through, really.
It's like what I think my first art book I remember reading was How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. And one of the things I remember it teaching is that you have to pick a point in that whole process of throwing the punch. You have to figure out where you think the most dynamic point in that whole punch is going to be. And that's what you draw.
Hey, Homer.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah,
I don't really like being on camera.
I figured you might have a question or two for John, because he's usually on with us, but we're usually drawing on Wednesdays. You got any questions for John about comics?
No, not really. I mean, John's a cool guy. I've seen a bunch of interviews with him already. All the questions I had, he's kind of answered. Although I do have one. I got one question for you, John.
Oh, damn it.
When are you going to start building up that YouTube channel, baby? When are you going to start building it up?
I don't know,
man. One video on there.
Honestly,
I want to encourage you.
One video.
I challenge you, right, Rex. I challenge you over the next 3 weeks to put one video up each week.
I do need to.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
this thing right here holds a cell phone, but right now,
do it, baby.
I have my tablet and I have my phone.
You got to do it. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
throw your phone up there, record a video, and just throw it up.
That's what I'll have to do. Well,
Homer's into the promotion and the sharing out as much as he is doing the artwork.
I've got Joe Sontag's Reaper Destroyer right here, but I thought about doing an unboxing video. But I'm trying to finish this book. I'm trying to finish at least one of these books before I move on to do other stuff.
Well, maybe just whatever you're drawing, if you can share like maybe a panel, you don't have to share the whole page. It doesn't have to be like a long video. It could be like a minute to 3 minute video. You don't have to show everything, but just start building up your channel, because here's the thing. I'm trying to encourage everybody that comes on the Hump Day Show, or even the studio guys. If we're all connected and we all start pumping each other's channels up, and we start putting videos and I start dropping links here and there, and I put you in the description, we all can trigger the algorithm, so we start getting more exposure together, and we grow together and not grow exponentially, and somebody gets left behind, because we're triggering the algorithm together. So that helps to build up all our channels and getting pushed out through YouTube. So if we can do that, I mean, I think it's a good idea. And
Homer, did I blow your mind yesterday by surpassing 500?
Yes, yeah. I was like, when did that happen? I missed it. Or was it that show?
You came in late, and it was like, we went from 280 something. I mean, 480 something to 503. Just
man,
thanks
to
the UK crowd, Salacious Rum and all his buds and all his accounts.
Well,
whatever.
We were on that. Yeah, well, we were on that one stream from like 12 in the morning to 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah,
I would say
Rex, we
had that show stream. He picked up.
We had a stream for like 7 hours, a draw stream, and I was working on this piece here, and this probably took me about 6 hours to do. With all that figuring out the colors and the layering and all like that, and the absorption of the actual material it's done on. And I work slow anyway. Are you pretty fast paced, John, with your artwork? How would you rate yourself?
I'd say I'm quick, not necessarily fast, because it depends on the interruptions.
When did you start actually drawing comics? I mean, actually getting down to something that, you thought might get published.
Junior high age, when I found those X-Men comics.
Uh-huh.
Up until then, I was drawing the cartoon characters and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then reading those the X-Men comics, I'm like, this is what I want to draw now.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been drawing professionally for, I'd say, about 7 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, I get just the endless kick out of knowing the hard work I put into my artwork. I've gotten to the point from being just a fan that enjoys comic books to I'm making my own now. So the people that I look up to or grew up admiring as a kid are now colleagues of mine.
You're welcome, John. I'm glad you look up to me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What do you say, John, to people that say I can't draw?
Bullshit.
Good answer. Good answer.
Everyone can do it. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Hey, Elsie.
See, there you go.
Is that your arachnid?
If anyone wants, I can send you the link.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Walter?
Looks good.
I know that guy. I really hope that Michael and I can get to a point where I can draw pages of him instead of just pinups.
Carrie says, not everyone, John. To some, it's rocket science. I can't draw.
With all due respect, Carrie, bullshit. Everyone can do it. And you may not be able to do it now, but you can draw.
Gary, leave it to the professionals. We'll draw for you. What do you want?
Just pay us, we'll do it for you. But no, I grew up, like I said, reading cartoons, like the Sunday comics. As soon as my parents were done reading it, they knew I was going to steal the Sunday comics, read them myself, and then try to figure out how to draw them. And as I grew up, I accumulated more art books. I have an entire section of my personal library that's just comic book drawing books of different degrees. And I have a YouTube playlist where I can send people the link to that shows them how to draw comic books.
Carrie says that she can't draw, but then she sends me a picture of a painting she did.
That looks like you can draw to me.
Well, it looks like it to me. I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
And he's got a beard too, so it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe that's why she loves Jesus so much. He's got a beard.
Hey,
John, I can draw the most serious stick man, but I assure you I draw. People think a child did it. Can't draw.
I don't know,
Elsie
man.
said I was drawing at 3 and never stopped. Oh, Rex, that's embarrassing. That is awful. No, it's not awful.
No, it's not.
Awful.
It's not bad at all.
Very good.
The art is interpretive. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean somebody else won't. Guaranteed, all three of us have different art that we like that the other ones won't.
I've got to say before I forget about it, because Carrie was saying happy birthday to Elsie. We did celebrate his birthday yesterday, and the day before was my sister's birthday. But today would have been my father's birthday. He would have been 94. Had he passed away a decade ago. So
happy birthday, happy belated birthday, Elsie.
Children are the best artists, Elsie says. And he should know he was a.
They're the worst. No. What do you mean? They're the worst. God, they draw terrible. They draw terrible.
I gotta agree with that one myself, but maybe.
Hey, I was an art teacher too, and I told a lot of kids they sucked. I mean, I'm just kidding.
I bet you did. You were the teacher they loved to hate.
I taught it at Michael's for a while, but that's about it.
Did you
Yeah,
ever
no.
have to take the ruler to any students, Homer?
No, those days are gone. We can't slap their hands anymore for speaking in Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad and mom, they would when they were in school back in the 60s. I think it ended kind of right around there. But if they spoke Spanish, oh no, I take it back. It's my grandfather. If he spoke Spanish, they would the Catholic nuns would slap their hands with rulers, and then they'd make them hold the Bibles for hours.
Have you seen that show 1923?
Yeah. I saw the
I
first
have
episode. I loved it.
Well, without giving spoilers away, I absolutely love that show. But there's part of it that was where this Native American girl is at a school for Indians. They did the same thing. Whenever she spoke her native language, the nuns there smacked her hand. They straight up abused her. They went past discipline. And straight up abused those poor kids.
Yep.
And they wonder why people have such a problem with religion now.
So in regards to not being able to draw, the biggest thing that I would tell students is, look, you're not going to be good at it at the beginning. If you don't know how to draw, you don't like to draw, you don't feel like you can draw, it's because you haven't done it enough. It's plain and simple. You need to do it more. And yes, you're going to start off with stick figures, and yes, you're not going to know how to use a pencil very well. And people often, one of the biggest things like with students is, once they teach them how to write, they lose all real ability to draw, because they see a line as a letter. And when you try to draw a line and not a letter, what you're doing is you're making this really hard mark. And so they don't know how to sketch, right? Because they're trying to draw perfect the first time out. Like when you're writing a letter, like say you're writing the letter A, you're trying to make it perfect the first time out, right? And when you're drawing, it's not like writing, so you don't have.
But Homer, isn't that from the 70s? You know, the book by Betty Edwards, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, because your lettering is pretty much going to be on the left side, right? And you want to access, you know,
the right. You want to access the
you
right
want to
side
access
of your
your
brain.
creative side, don't you?
Right. So the Betty Edwards books is a misnomer. That's not how the brain really works. But it was a good idea to kind of pivot that way. The brain actually both works in conjunction, always at the same time together.
Yes.
But yes, one time, one side does take the heavier load of the analytical side versus the conceptual side. But
no,
it really
Carrie,
does
we're
work
not
together.
going to redeem you. You know, that there was nothing wrong with that painting.
So
we're not going to show you.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
it was a good painting.
You know, you can draw.
Yeah,
you can do it.
Yeah,
you know,
you got artistic, and then sometimes you have to think about the finished idea of the artwork isn't always about making the artwork perfect or to a level of expectation of realism. That's the thing. Like, it's not always about doing things realistic, right? Yeah, well, that's what I was going to get into, and sometimes art is about just being therapeutic, right? Doing something that you can kind of shut your brain off to, and having fun and making marks on a paper or a page. And it's about making the marks. It's not even about making anything realistic sometimes.
Right. So I sent you that link to the abstract that playlist I was telling you about on Twitter.
Say that again, John.
That link I was telling you guys about for that playlist I have for the drawing. It's comic book related, but I sent it to you on X. I sent you the link.
Okay. Let me check that out then.
Did you send it to me too? I'll check it out.
If I have to.
Okay. You don't have. You know what? I want to make John laugh. Right. I don't think I've ever made John laugh. He's always just very serious, but he has laughed on the Hump Day show.
Just blindly doing stuff and say you're practicing isn't enough. You have to figure out what you want to do before you can figure out how you want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I was going to say that to Omer, and actually, Omer, I was thinking about this today and thinking about you because you're always on my mind. You're always on my mind.
I love it.
Is that you have to you know, why are you having problems? And I don't like to offer look, you do your own thing. I'm happy with you totally doing your own thing. But, you know, I've said something about your hands or your head or something like that. It's like, I think you're having a problem with proportions because you're not visualizing it. And I don't know how you're approaching it. You know, people approach it right, different drawings in the same way. But am I off on that, John? If you can't visualize it up here first, you're probably not going to put it down here or correctly.
Well, that's why I say you have to figure out what you want to do first. Because if you're just blindly doodling for whatever, then whatever is going to be what you get. But if you figure out, hey, I want to draw a picture of Superman, that's when you figure out, okay, I need to follow this series of steps to draw Superman in this pose so I can figure out what I want to do to it.
Yeah, I always build the figure.
Get that link off X and then share it on here. That way, Carrie can try to get it. And
he dropped it.
Yeah, it's right there.
He dropped it in the chat.
There we go.
Yeah. I'm on it, John.
Yeah, I've got playlists that I put together for the music I listen to while I was drawing Exodus Z. I've got that playlist. I'm a big gearhead, so if I find a cool car video, I have a playlist for that. That way I can get my horsepower fix for the day. Fitness stuff, martial arts stuff. I've got 6-7 different playlists on my YouTube channel.
What do you most like to draw, though? Out of all the different projects, is there a particular bent, superhero or genre or something that you like to draw most? The human form, buildings, perspective shots. What do you like?
Well, most of my work so far has been horror related because that's what I've been paid to draw. But I think
is that typecasting?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I did my 90s book, to show I can draw more than just fucked up horror stuff all the time. But I think the superhero book I did is probably some of my best work so far. So I'm going to say that.
Okay. Cool. We might have a job for you then. Hang around after the show. Anyway.
I've never been known to turn money down.
There you go. Money greases the wheels, right?
Yes. Makes my wife happy too.
Rex, I think you corrupted Omer. Really? I think it's the other way around. He's had an influence on me. You know, he's in my head.
Oh shoot! Oh look, John laughs. John, what's something that makes you laugh?
The show we can talk as long.
Usually inappropriate humor.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Classic.
Like a lot of the humor you're going to see in this book.
Anywhere. I've got a question or two for you as well, young mister.
All right.
And Carrie, we're got to get you on the show sometime and straighten you out. Your thinking is bent. If you think Omer.
Yeah, we'll get you set straight. Here's
what have you been working on for Omer before we get out of here? Real quick. Look at that.
This is for Haldir. Thank you. This is what he wanted drawn. It's a character called Cherub. Or Cherubim?
I
don't know.
It's
from an anime manga. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting looking.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I try to go unique with the hands there. I gave him a unique hand, and then you got to go with the typical punch fist, right? My go-to.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Get one and one.
Your go-to, but you know.
Yeah.
Do be
I've
cognizant
done those hands so much. I saw a David Finch video.
You didn't get your own way. Oh yeah, look at that.
Look, she got 2 unique hands, Rex, but they were in fire, so
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, she's Nikki. Is that her name? Nikki? From Guardians of the Galaxy?
From Guardians, yeah. Look, she got a one unique hand.
Moondragon.
The Moondragon's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Only
and you got a Gamora there somewhere.
My feelings, John. You're hurting my feelings, John. The Moondragon's pretty good, but that one sucks. Okay, I'm just kidding.
I didn't say that. You said
I know. I'm playing. Look, this one sucks the most, though. I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't say that. No.
I was surprised how fun Arachnus is to draw.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. There's so many versions of him. Like I was having a hard time like which one? What is this one? And then you drew a different one with more armor and like a bigger spider on his face, and then Duck drew like a physical mutant monster version, and yeah, and then Don did like huge tentacles on him. Yeah, so many versions. Pretty cool though.
Yeah. I've actually got some of those in my collection. I know he's kind of got a purple and silver costume, right?
Yes, purple, red,
but I
and
haven't
silver.
seen any.
And
Maybe I
like
don't
a
have enough
gold.
of the issues to see the inconsistencies
Oh,
in the
just talk to
characters, how
James.
he's drawn.
Well,
But
I've
then-
Oh
only
yeah,
got,
James.
like,
Yeah.
I've only got like one or two issues of it, and then I have the poster that I bought that I got at a con when I was a kid. But I just looked on my phone, and it seems like every picture I saw of Arachnus, something was different about it, or something was
Really?
different about the uniform.
Okay, I guess
Yeah.
I just haven't examined him close enough to say, well, that looks different from this issue. to
Well,
that.
Michael Ortiz, the creator, he was on with us, right? And he kind of told us a little bit of why all that was happening, right? Because he was pressured he felt pressured to put out the monthly book, and he was kind of coming up with it on the fly, and then the story was going in a different direction than he had planned, and they were constantly second guessing themselves, and he would redraw pages over and over again. So I mean, and every time he did that, everything kept getting better artistically, but the story kind of didn't go the way he wanted, and outside influences from publishing, and because he was his own editor too, to some extent, right? So
Yeah,
and the story wasn't solidified from
was he
beginning
through
to end.
Lightning Comics, or what was he through?
That was
Yeah.
North
don't know,
Star,
John.
and then I forgot what the second one was.
Okay,
I want to say
Yeah.
there was like two. I want to say there was like two miniseries, I think. But
Yeah.
there was only like 4 or 5 issues altogether.
Because often with those miniseries, they do, skip to new publishers. I know with Nexus,
Yeah.
they started out with Capital, then went to First. That's just one example. But
he
often,
was right though. There were inconsistencies. I mean, nothing egregious or anything, but he Michael did explain that was because of, I guess, how things were going on behind closed doors.
do you try and make model sheets so that you stay on?
I have to.
You
Like
have
for
to.
For the book, for my book, I bought a pack of paper like Bristol board, but it has a panel on the side you can draw the character, and then has a panel on the next to it where you can write down everything about the character. And I look at those things almost religiously to make sure I get every little doodad of the uniform right, so that I don't have to have people nitpicking about stuff later on. And, oh, why'd you forget this in this panel, but you drew it over here? I'm like, shut up.
Arachnus seems like he would be a daunting character to draw with all those.
Oh, he is, but he's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of approach it that you start with a simple design, and then you can extrapolate from there. If you keep it simple initially, you can always grow from that simple design,
Well, part of the idea with drawing the book, since you have to draw it so many times, is I would think to keep things like with the Exodus Z, I want to say 6, 7 different characters that are revolving around the book so far, and I'm constantly referring to my sketches so that I can get the details right. But the idea is to try to keep it fairly simple, because you have to replicate it so many times throughout the book.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I'll create a character and I won't necessarily do a model shoot right then. I'm just keep on creating characters. But
you haven't made a model sheet for any of your characters. What are you talking about?
That is not true. That is not true. I've shown you some of the model sheets. Don't lie to the public.
But you didn't make them.
I had somebody make them for me. Thank you.
It's like oftentimes if I don't have
I don't do it either, Rex. I'm guilty as flip on that. Like I
usually
should,
the case,
but
I'll just refer to pages I've already drawn to get the idea of what I need to do in the page I'm working on now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing a cover for Omar, and I believe Apex Comics said he's going to be doing you a cover too or something.
Yes.
And with his glitch character. So I've got to talk to Omer behind the scenes. So we're going to bring this to a close. Thank you, John, for coming on.
Mm-hmm.
I
Thank you
want
for
to
having
talk to
me.
him about his glitch character and get kind of like what he wants me to do, or maybe a villain or something reference. I don't know, but we'll see. Or if does he just want
All
a
right.
straight up cover? What do you feel about that, John? Should covers have something to do with the insides of the book?
I don't know that they have to, because I had this very discussion with the people I'm doing the Flesh Eaters book with.
Mm-hmm.
I think the book should always make you, at the very least, the book should make you want to pick it up and see what's inside.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, I mean, really the seminal thing, that's the first thing you're going to see is that front cover, right? It has to be a banger every time, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't always have to be a super dynamic with like forced perspective and all that, and pulling out all the bells and whistles and all that. But at the very least, no matter what design you choose, it has to be interesting enough to make you want to pick up the book, buy it, and then see what's on the inside.
Absolutely, with a high price point nowadays, right?
Generally, even like the mainstream books are still about $5 a pop, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I want to point out something that the good old Todd father said, Todd McFarlane. When Spawn was first coming out, he said, I don't care about what's happening inside the comic book. I just need you to have Spawn in a cool pose on every cover for like the first 50 issues, because nobody knows the character and they need to see the character in as cool as possible poses as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't matter what was happening in the comic, as long as Spawn was on the cover and he looked badass. That was the most important thing.
Well, yeah, and look how well that worked out for him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe after you get into 50 plus issues to your 100, then you can maybe start like relating it to the story or making it a cooler example of the splash page from the inside the book, you know, that you're pulling out or extrapolating.
Now, I don't know that necessarily has to be a particular scene that happens in the book.
Right.
But I would go as far as to maybe have something that's similar to what's going on inside the book.
Yeah.
That way you pick it up and you have maybe at least a vague idea that
at least who's fighting who, right? And usually it's
something like that.
That's kind of cool. And you don't see that in Spawn really till even after the Violator, because the Violator has, when he was introduced, he had the whole cover in issue number 4, right, of Spawn.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, who's this guy? Then I guess every time Todd introduced a new character, he put him on the cover after for a little bit to introduce you to all the cool characters, right? Angela.
That's kind of an interesting take. I had not heard that Todd McFarlane had said that.
This right here is the kind of the first pass for Exodus Z2.
Ooh, yeah.
And my writer liked it, but then after a while he's like, I want to change a little bit. But we built off of this to but I still think even this, you're like, who are these characters?
Badass, dude.
What's going to go on the inside?
Yeah.
Ideally, that's what is going to sell the book, is you have to get the fans' curiosity piqued.
Right. You got to get the hook in. You got to throw the hook.
Yeah.
What's the hook? A badass pose, a badass character.
It's like this was the layout I wanted to do for Flesh Eaters.
Mm-hmm.
You got a little bit of perspective, dynamic pose, and the figures down here were going to be like the zombies and stuff that he's going to fight.
Is that your signature at the bottom left there? Is that your signature? That's quite stylized there in the box and everything.
Yeah. Well, growing up, that's how all the guys did it. Was they had some kind of like torn paper or something, and they had their signature on it. So that's just how I figured out how to do it myself.
I had some retard ask me, why do I put my name all over the place a while back on an episode or something?
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
I think he's talking about me. Yeah.
No, I don't know. What was he? I don't know who it was. I'm joking, by the way. I'm just totally joking. But it's because I want you to know I made it, man. So if you see my art, you can find me, you know? What is it? A good editor always said, even at Marvel and DC, put your name on every single piece of paper that you submit for
Yep.
for
Every
portfolio
submission,
review. Yeah,
every
put it
submission
all
I've
over
ever
the
had,
place.
you have to have your info on there.
Yeah, and you put all your mailing address and stuff on the back of every page. If
No,
you're
I don't necessarily
mailing it
do
out
that
to them or
on
whatever.
my sequential pages, but any cover that I ever draw, or even the stuff I put in my sketchbook.
Well, no,
if
I
it's a
meant for
finished drawing,
submissions,
I'll put my
like
signature
for
on
the
it.
editors. I meant back in the day when Marvel was taking submissions and stuff, they would
Yeah.
say put all your information on the back of every page you
Yep,
submit.
every page.
Yeah. So it's kind of my school of thought, on why I put all this crap on here. Plus, I mean, like the exclamation point, it's kind of it's a nod
All
to
this
Image
crap.
Comics.
He said it, folks. It's crap. It's a distraction.
This exclamation point is an Image eye, and that's why I use it, because it's my nod to
Yeah,
Image Comics, because they're the biggest influence.
Uh-huh.
And then this, look, this
I
is
guess
crap,
digitally
right?
we
This,
could remove that stuff if we just wanted to.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is all for YouTube,
Uh-huh.
Instagram. It's the internet moniker handler.
You
whatever.
are into branding. I will give you that.
It is branding. That's exactly what all this junk is. It's branding.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, even with the Stephen Platt poster, the Stephen Platt wizard poster with all the bullets everywhere,
Uh-huh.
he's even got on there a torn paper scroll that he wrote his name on. So I figured if it's good enough for Stephen Platt, then I can do it too.
Yeah. Good old Toddy with the little scroll and
Mhm.
the T and the McFarlane. That's where we all got it from, Like
I think Denny Miki was even doing it like that for a while too, before he started doing his name by itself.
Right. With the circle, he would put a circle halfway
They
through
won't
his
say
name.
it, so I will. Keep collecting, and we'll see you tomorrow on the 4 o'clock shadow.
Keep collecting.